out a few yards short of her goal. Just then, a whole pack of SOBs comes running in like someone just shook the bag. Nikki swings her legs up and Commando crawls up the rest of the way to the garage. Once inside, she climbs down to the old car without a hitch, but the ancient engine just won't turn over. Suddenly, the very important breaches the walls, leaving her barely enough time to gymnastics her way to safety without getting punched on. With Nikki in need of immediate exfil, the four friends concoct a foolproof plan to reel her back in. Old Robin Hood ties some fishing line to the back of the carrier. He manages to stick the broadside of the barn without another ruler on the foot. They then tie a length of climbing rope to the line so she can pull it over and tie it under her carabiner. Just then, one of the dogs makes it up to her level. Nikki takes a running start and leaps for the handlebars, dangling just above the jaws of death. Paul Deadeye lines up the shot. John lets loose and hits earbuds full of career with a single well-placed arrow. The gang finally pulls Nikki out of harm's way. I understand there's a sense of urgency getting medical attention for Sarah's rapidly deteriorating condition, but this hastily cobbled together plan could have easily cost them one of their own. A better option might be to slow things down a hair and try to take out as many dogs as possible before moving around. After all, even if we manage to get the car moving, we're still going to have to transition the rest of our group from inside the house to inside the vehicle, and that's going to be pretty difficult to do with 50 attack dogs tearing us limb from limb. I would see if I could find some poison to pour on the dog's carcass before setting it out for the pack to feed on, and then leave them a big bowl of antifreeze to wash it down with. Don't ask me how I know this, but enough ethylene glycol will put down anything that walks, crawls, swims, or flies, even if it doesn't kill them outright. After a few hours, they'll be way too compromised to pose any kind of threat. If we can't get a hold of any dangerous household chemicals, we could always just bait them in and pick them off with a bow from up on the roof. Sure, we might have to draw straws to see who gets the honor of retrieving arrows between waves, but killing any amount of these things is going to be a net positive for us in the long run. Once we get to the car, we should immediately roll all the windows and in the summer, the glass is bound to be much sturdier than what's being used in the house, and they won't get much of a running start from inside the garage. The fact that there's still power going to the starter is a miracle, considering this thing hasn't been running for 10 years. The dogs aren't going to eat their way into the cab with us, so we might as well take full advantage of that supernatural battery life and crank on this thing until it goes click. Although, we'll want to be careful not to blow the engine in the process. I definitely have made sure to bring some kind of weapon with me for when this harebrained scheme ultimately went to shit. Most dogs aren't known for their climbing ability, so while we're waiting for our friends to formulate an exit strategy, I'd be slashing and stabbing at anything that gets near the ledge. And regarding our escape route, we should have had the extra rope tied onto the handlebars from the very beginning, in case Nikki needed to make a quick getaway, or we needed to send someone in after her. Waiting until after things fell apart cost us an arrow, and nearly cost us one of our teammates. Props to John for redeeming himself on a moving target, but we really could have used that accuracy when the dogs were still looking for a way to the garage, or, you know, when that one had a hold of Nikki's leg, as paintball rolls around, the gang breaks into the wine cellar, gets ready to fire up the record player. They can pop off like it's 1969. The circuit breaker in the basement trips and knocks out the power, since he's already done it once on this trip. Noah boldly volunteers to brave into the dark, dank underground, and flip the breaker, insisting the others just stay put on ladders. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and his good intentions, Noah descends into the basement, quickly restores the power, only for it to shut off once again just a few seconds later. As he goes back to check the fuse box, he hears something moving around in the nearby ventilation shaft. There's no sign of anything at first, but a low growl stops in his tracks. Before Noah can react, the dog springs through the metal grate and knocks on his ass. He tries desperately to keep the beast at bay, but by the time Matt and John arrive on the scene, it's already too late.
Cancel costume. Delivery or Walmart Plus.
A full-blown furry flit screen sets upon the house, with the four remaining friends working frantically to keep the doors and windows secure. The combined might of all the dogs proves to be more than the old construction can handle, and eventually they're forced to make a hasty retreat up to the attic. Along the way, Matt gets jumped by a sneaky boy hiding in one of the upstairs bedrooms, but John is able to knock it away before he winds up like poor Noah. Do I even need to mention how dumb it is to be going anywhere alone right now? Yeah, it's really fucking dumb. We should be doing everything in at least groups of two, and every one of us should be armed at all times. Matt and John are the most familiar with the layout of this place, and even they haven't been here since they were kids, so we shouldn't assume we know all the ins and outs not a good time to be tying one on. The dogs could attack in force at any time, and we have no way of knowing whether hasty fortifications will be able to hold them back. Speaking of which, if it were my ass on the line here, I'd want more than a nation would endure keeping me from getting mauled. We should have barricaded ourselves in with whatever we could find, well before the sun ever went down. After the power went out a second time, we should have just admitted defeat and gone back upstairs. Noah is a damn fool for leaning in to investigate the source of the noise. There's only two things that it could possibly be, and both of them are killer canines. I would have kept either the mag light or the wine bottle cocked back and ready to swing at the first sign of trouble, but getting back to our friends should have been the top priority. In this case, curling up into a ball and screaming our lungs out might have been a better move than trying to fight off the dog empty-handed. Sure, it's gonna hurt like hell, but it'll keep us alive long enough for Matt and John to come down and handle business. Once all hell breaks loose, we need to immediately fall back to a more defensible position. The attic is a great choice, but we should have kept the staircase pulled down for just such an occasion. Now would be a great time to channel our inner Obi-Wan and butcher a few of these mutts while we have the high ground. They can't exactly fly up the stairs. They'll be extremely vulnerable while they're slowly funneled in. This is, of course, assuming we had the foresight to bring weapons with us or stage some here ahead of time, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be the case. The group settles in for the night as the rest of the house gets completely torn to shit. While poking around through some old boxes, Matt finds documents linking the old dog training facility on the island to the Army Mountain Combat School, which probably wasn't all that concerned with turning out dogs for the blind. The next morning, they leave the attic to find the place has really gone to the dogs. Seeing no sign of Fido, Matt and John make for the old garage to take another pass at their uncle's old Mercedes. Attempting to push start, Matt muscles the vehicle from behind while John steers. Unfortunately, their efforts don't go unnoticed. With the car now rolling freely downhill, Matt climbs onto the roof and asks John to pass him the bow, which he almost immediately drops as soon as they reach the first turn. Matt climbs down into the cab, but they're quickly running out of slope to roll on. In a last-ditch effort to start the engine, John jerks the wheel hard to the left, running the car down a steep incline towards a sheer cliff. Just as they're about to go out like Thelma and Louise, the engine roars to life and John stomps on the brakes, bringing it to a full stop mere feet from certain death. Before they can reach the house, a lurking doggo pounces on Matt through his open window. Thinking quickly, John tells Matt to hold the dog while he swerves into a nearby post, clotheslining the dog and sending it through the air like a frisbee. Nicky meets them as they pull up to the porch. It seems Sarah's refusing to leave the house for some reason. John heads inside to try and tuck her down, finding her in a semi-catatonic state. As he forces her to her feet against her will, a lone dog comes out of nowhere to block their escape. Sarah locks eyes with the beast, keeping it at bay while John climbs out the window. Suddenly, she lets out a scream and the dogs attack, knocking John off the second floor onto the ground below. In the ensuing struggle, Sarah and the dog fall through another window, impaling themselves on the busted merry-go-round sitting beside the house. Who the hell just leaves that lying around? We should be extra careful when leaving the attic, as there's no way of knowing if the house is really empty. I'd make some noise before climbing down to see if any dogs came running in to investigate. Probably best to leave the bow behind on this one. If things go sideways, we can't exactly run and shoot at the same time. It'd be better to have some melee weapons, like the baseball bat or fire pokers for close encounters. Also, what's with this casually walking BS? This is a matter of life and death. Move your fucking asses. It makes sense to go for a push start when it won't turn over otherwise, but nothing says you can only push from behind. John and Matt should both be pushing from the open door frames to build up as much speed as possible. This allows them both to quickly jump back in, which is pretty damn important since getting left behind would be certain death. I'm not sure why Matt wouldn't just immediately climb down into the cab where it's safe. Unless you're a Mongolian warrior, hitting moving targets from a moving platform with a bow and arrow is probably out of your skill range. This blunder just cost us one of our best weapons against the dogs without even scratching off a single one. I don't think I'd risk steering straight towards a cliff. A far better option would be to just roll up all the windows and sit tight while the dogs knock their teeth out trying to break in. Just like Nicky earlier, we're pretty much completely safe inside the car, so we can just hold out until they get bored or the girls draw them away, and then try another push start when the coast is clear. On that note, roll up the goddamn window. How the hell is this not the very first thing that you do once you get inside? Now that we've got the car running, it seems the engine noise is effective in scaring off the dogs. We should use this to our advantage and swing back around to grab the bow before collecting our friends. I don't know if Sarah's just accepted death, or if she's actively trying to get us all killed. But it shouldn't be just John going up to get her. We need to stick together as much as possible, so either all three of us are going up there, or she's getting left behind. The way John and Sarah handle the dog makes absolutely no sense. It's not like it's holding a broadsword. Just double team him and get the hell out of there. He would have to have known that leaving her alone with a bloodthirsty attack dog was going to end poorly, with or without her landing on the playground equipment. Now down to only three, Matt, John, and Nikki head to the old dog training facility to try and find a way to call for help. They hop the fence and head inside, quickly finding an old bite suit, along with evidence suggesting the place was actually used to breed some kind of super dog. After restoring power to the building, the lab's only radio proves inoperable, so John MacGyvers their brick phone up to a comms array to try and boost the signal. Problem is, at some point, the giant radio antenna was disconnected from the rest of the system. John volunteers to make the repair, instructing the others on how to use the equipment before casually jogging out into the open. Once up on the tower, John spots Luke and Jenny's boat docked off in the distance. He reconnects the wires and signals back to Nikki to fire up the transmitter, but the resulting power surge knocks him flat on his back, in addition to sparking a massive electrical fire down in the basement. Suddenly, John finds himself surrounded on all sides by snarling dogs. He quickly becomes ensnared in a vicious bout of tug-of-war, but before they can rip him in half like a teddy bear, Matt shows up in the bite suit to teach them how they played fetch in Soviet Russia. Meanwhile, Nikki lures part of the pack into the burning building near an open propane tank. Just when it looks like they have her cornered, she opens the basement door, using the backdraft from the fire below to fry up a few hot dogs. The resulting explosion drives away most of the dogs, but before long, they return in full force to finish where they started. John and Matt sit and await a grisly fate as human kibble, but just then, Nikki comes tearing through the compound in the Mercedes to save the day. The brothers quickly pile in and point her towards the dock. In the car's final moments, the three catch air off the raised pier and slam into the water beside the boat. Matt, John, and Nikki frantically scramble aboard and cast off, narrowly escaping the mob closing in behind them. As the three survivors triumphantly sail off into the sunset, John opens the cabin door. From out of the darkness, one last dog leaps out at him, only to most likely get punted off into the ocean. Did they really think this dog would end all three of them on a boat by itself? Is that really what we're assuming happens here? Alright, let's rewind. Before any of us go blindly hopping over that wire, it might be a good idea to sweep the perimeter to make sure the place isn't just a massive den. The dogs have had years to dig their way under the fence, so we shouldn't assume the place is anywhere close to airtight. It would also be a good idea to have one of us stay behind in the car in case we need emergency extraction. The fact that none of them thought to immediately don the bite suit makes me want the dogs to win. It's a literal dog-proof suit of fucking armor. There's no way I'm passing this thing up. We should also take the opportunity to search for any other training devices, like dog whistles or cattle prods. Given the age of this place, I'm surprised that simply restoring the power didn't cause a fire. And I have no idea why a colossal fuck-up like John would know how to rig up a cell phone to an antiquated radio system. But yeah, good for you, dude. That said, since he's the one guy who knows how to properly work the communications, someone else should be going out to screw around with the antenna. Sure, he gives them a 2-second breakdown, but if he winds up dog food and something else goes wrong with the radio, Matt and Nikki are pretty much SOL. Either way, whoever goes outside should be carrying a baseball bat and wearing the bite suit. We'll also want to get ourselves clear of the tower before signaling Nikki to flip the equipment. That shit's had years to corrode in the elements, so there's no telling how many dead shorts could be present throughout the circuit. John's just lucky the hard zapping he took didn't stop his heart. Good on Matt for stepping in to save his brother's life, even if it was a losing battle to begin with. That said, while John's got them distracted, now would be the perfect time to sneak over to the Mercedes. That way we can easily clear away the dogs and get John to safety without risking a literal ass chewing. Of course, blowing yourself up to kill a whopping 3 dogs is also an option. Seriously, how the hell did Nikki walk away from that? The explosion blew the big roof off. She should be crispier than Freddy Krueger right now. Whatever the case, her respawning next to the vehicle is the only reason Matt and John live to make more bad decisions. Now that John knows about the boat, the next move is obvious, but instead of ditching our best defense against the doggos in the bottom of the ocean, we should let it idle at the pier to get out before diving in. Pulling that Nitro Circus bullshit only risks us being injured on impact. Plus, if there's something wrong with the boat that keeps us from leaving, it'd be nice to have another option besides getting brutally torn apart back on the dock. Once we're on board, I can't blame them for cutting away without taking the time to search the hull, but once we're safely away from shore, we should probably find something sharp and clear the cabin. As long as we don't jump overboard at the sight of a single dog like we did with Sarah, we should be able to handle ourselves just fine. In the end, this is one of those rare occasions where everyone could have probably survived if they bothered to pull their heads out of their asses for any amount of time. For starters, Luke and Jenny should have realized early on that this was not a safe place to land, much less go stumbling drunk through the forest. As for the five friends, had they left to seek medical attention for Sarah like a group of non-psychopaths, this whole mess would hardly even be a memory 10 years down the road. Otherwise, all they had to do was arm up and stick together to ensure none of them could ever be isolated enough to wind up as easy prey. Ultimately, I think the hellhounds from The Breed were me. How would you have beaten The Breed? Let me know in the comments. Hit the like button to airdrop some ambient-laced sausages. And don't forget to subscribe for more science experiments gone wrong. Thanks for watching, and remember, you only have to outrun your slowest friend. And remember to elevate your status by going to establishedtitles.com/nerdexplains.
We're 30 now, and our lives are trash. Train wrecks. Wow, we're really running out of board games to drink to. I want to be cool and chill, just like me. I'm here, you say.
Cool and chill. Alright, now let's do me. I am tall and curious.
We may not have had it all figured out. We're both crazy. We're insane. But at least...
If you somehow manage to survive a series of increasingly difficult and dangerous death games, only to be forced into surviving yet another series of increasingly difficult and dangerous death games, what would you do? With only 12 challenges remaining, we're on the home stretch, but you know the shadowy lunatics running this asylum saved their best for last. Not only are these challenges even deadlier than before, each one hits us directly against its creator, meaning we'll have to learn fast and think outside the box's box if we want any chance of making it out alive. Oh, just for fun, one of them is pretty much just a heavily armed psychopath hunting us down between matches, so there's that. I'm gonna break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat every death game in Alice in Borderland Season 2. It's been days since Arisu was yoinked from his reality and forced to fight for his life in Borderland, and things just keep going from bad to worse. After losing his lifelong friends in a bout of high-stakes hide-and-seek, he wound up getting forced into a gang of violent beach bums that were more concerned with killing their fellow players than actually finding a way out of this nightmare. For a minute, it seemed like they might be able to earn their ticket home by collecting all 40 numbered cards associated with each trial, but come on, why the hell would someone go to all the trouble of organizing their death games like Solitaire without including the face cards? Which brings us to where we are now, with the last of the numbered games leaving their home base in smoldering ruins. Arisu and the remaining Beach Boys gather in the city center after seeing signs the next phase is about to begin. Chief among them, the massive glimpse of base card banners floating just overhead. Right, here's the thing. Alright, things started off with a bang. Are you hooked yet? Evidently, this next batch of challenges isn't as concerned with player consent. Either that, or one of their fellow contestants has finally had enough. Whatever it is, we're still dead if we don't find a way out of this shooting gallery fast. We can see from the muzzle flashes that the trigger man is posted up just below that H&M sign, and we'll want to run perpendicular to his line of sight to make ourselves as difficult to hit as possible. Not straight away from him like these two morons. He's using some kind of anti-material rifle, definitely semi-auto based on the timing of his shots. My money's on it being a Barrett M82 or M107 chambered in 50 Browning machine gun, as those are pretty much the pumpkin spice latte of big bore rifles these days. A quality muzzle brake along with the rifle's immense weight will cut down on the belch recoil considerably, but the sheer amount of muzzle blast will make rapid follow-up shots difficult. Because of this, we should time our movements with each flash, running to cover as quickly as possible. Buildings like this one Arisu and friends find will offer some degree of cover and concealment, provided you're smart enough to actually duck your head below the windows. However, cars will also work as long as we can get behind the engine block.
I recognize that sound.
Now we've got an assault rifle. Of course, once he transitions to his AR, things become a totally different ballgame, since it seems literally no one actually bothered to bring any firearms to the beach resorts. Our best option is still to break line of sight as quickly as possible, except now we have to worry about him coming after us on foot. The good news is that a massive tidal wave of nobodies just spawned in to help cat out the kill counter without sacrificing anyone we care about. Unless he's targeting us specifically, his nunchuck's priority will be stacking as many bodies as possible. So our best bet is to split off from the herd and leave him to it. Likewise, we'll also want to exercise a little social distancing within our own group to look less like a rolling overkill. Have you looked in a mirror? You don't have the excuse of barely surviving multiple death games. You just lack basic hygiene and self-care. It's okay. There's a cure. Geology. No, I'm not talking about sedimentary layers. Geology, like layers of your skin. Geology is a 6-time award-winning skin, hair, and body care company recognized in Men's Health, Hype Beast, Birdie, Esquire, and Aspen grooming awards with over 6,000 5-star reviews. Look, I get it. I used to use bath soap for my body, face, and hair. Works in your 20s, but you start seeing the damage in your 30s, like dark under-eye circles, puffiness, tired eyes, fine lines, and wrinkles. To combat the damage, get Geology's effective products by taking a 30-second skincare quiz and get a personalized routine shipped to you. I got the 30-day trial set that included 2 everyday face washes. The salicylic acid removes the oil and dirt buildup. That might help it leaves my skin feeling clean. Anti-aging eye cream. The retinol and hyaluronic acid makes this perfect for under-eye wrinkles, damage, and prevention. Repairing night cream. Use this overnight for acne and oily skin. The lower retinol is good for sensitive skin. Control morning cream. A daytime moisturizer, leaving the skin hydrated, especially in the winter. Use my code NerdExplains50. Geology is giving you an additional 50% off their award-winning 5-piece skincare trial set. This discount stacks on top of their current sale prices. They're also giving you a bonus offer on one of their brand new skincare and body products of your choice when you add it to your trial. Team Arasu manages to figure out the second part, but nothing from your former life of staring at pre-rendered footage of a generic TV show FPS will save you from getting mowed down in a crowd of lemmings. Before we move, we need to figure out exactly where the shooter is to avoid running directly into his line of fire. Simply listening for the source of gunshots is a no-go, as in this environment, he'll likely be echoing off all the surrounding structures. This guy's in a target-rich environment, and with all the chaos, he'll probably be looking for movement. Still at cover, should have had somebody less popular peek out around the corner to see if they can spot him. From there, we move to the nearest building that isn't just a set.
At Snowy Owl Coffee, mindfulness is our mantra. With intention behind each decision, we source coffee beans from the partners that care as much about quality, sustainability, and relationships as we do. We aim to give our coffee drinkers peace of mind, knowing that each sip, drip, and pull of our coffee is the result of a mindful transaction aimed at improving the coffee trade at large without sacrificing those delicious flavor notes of specialty coffee.
Although we'll definitely want to make sure it has an emergency exit so we can't get boxed in. Hey, you okay? One thing's for sure, once the running starts, we're not slowing down for anyone, especially the wounded. Yeah, sure, I'm evil for wanting to save my own life. You realize that even if you could buddy carry someone without getting smoked, you lack the medical equipment to actually keep them alive. Best case scenario, you drag them to safety, only for them to bleed to death or die of infection later on. Looking at the bigger picture, the most likely objective of this GOAT rodeo is to put the Quay kid on ice, although he's not exactly making that easy. Since we weren't given a time limit or shown any kind of visible boundaries, our best bet is to break contact for now. Come back once we've scrounged up some firepower. After all, he shouldn't be too hard to find with the Hindenburg following his every move. Of course, that's all easier said than done, considering we can't even stick our heads out. Fortunately, the Triggerman has enough respect for classic cars to let our friends Tata and Ann roll in without getting mulched. I mean, it's not like there's a single part of that cab that could actually stop a bullet. Which raises the question, why are you idiots gawking at that thing like it's a dinosaur? Dude's gonna kill you. Run for your fucking lives. That's bad. Get going! Bro, what are you doing? In the time it took for you to make your cute little remark, you could have easily Supermaned yourself into the back seat in time for them to step on it. Of course, none of this would have mattered if you'd bothered to take your freaking hands out of your pockets and moved like somebody that wasn't trying to get perforated. Whatever. I'm sure he'll be fine. After all, his character actually has a name, unlike this car full of imbeciles mindlessly following the main characters to their inevitable doom. unseen attacker dosed one of your friends in the head, you might try speeding up, swerving a little bit to make it that much harder for him to get the rest of you, especially once you're staring down the barrel of certain death. At that point, a little quick thinking could have handed you the game. Just stomp on the brakes and feet up to the asphalt, followed by that good old-fashioned triple tap, of course. This is one of the final bosses we're dealing with here, so I don't think anyone would blame you for doing a 20-second burnout directly on his face. It's the only way to be sure. In any case, our hero shouldn't be so nonchalant about being tailed, given we really don't know whether it's just the one edgelord hunting us down. Fact is, after learning in the Ten of Hearts that the game's creators couldn't play alongside us, we should be wary of anyone that's not part of our immediate group. And even then, how well do we say we actually know these people? Whatever the answer, it's going to have to wait, as here comes Ghostface for a little GTA action. Think Ant's ready to jump behind the wheel and show Tata what real speed is. That said, you can't outrun a bullet, and the King of Spades ain't no Sunday driver. Instead of trying to burn him on the straightaways, we should whip this thing around as many corners as possible to make it harder for him to line us up. Left turns in particular will force him to either change hands or aim across his windshield, either of which will make accurate shooting even more difficult. As for everyone else, without any way to return fire, they're pretty much just along for the ride. Although Kawina does have the homemade hand grenade Chishiet gave her before they got separated. Unfortunately, without knowing how long of a delay to expect, we can't exactly time it to explode underneath him, but we could still try tossing it through his open window whenever he pulls up for a kill shot. Stud or not, it'll at least make him think twice about staying inside the car. Ultimately, it doesn't matter, as Death Race 2000 ends with both vehicles wiping out in separate head-up related accidents. Still, despite literally none of them having remembered rule number 4, the gang manages to scramble away from the wreckage before Gator gets his gat back. It's far from a clean getaway. However, in the chaos, it gets split off from the group after stupidly helping someone that probably wasn't going to make it out anyway. Down 2 members, Arisu, Usagi, Kawina, and Tata hold up in a nearby building for the night and plan their next move. Realizing the King of Spades won't want to interfere with the other Game Masters' operations, they decide to hit up something a little less impossible to get them off their backs. Hey, sounds like a great idea to me. Although, after barely getting away with our lives, the last thing I'm walking into is another King challenge. Sure, it stands to reason the organizers at this level would know more than anyone else, but no amount of information is useful to a corpse. And if the King of Spades was any indication, the King of Clubs probably involves a clock and a 6-sided dice. Sometime later, the friends arrive at the harbor to find a giant maze made out of shipping containers. By the entrance, 4 bracelets along with a sign stating they'll need 5 players. Oh man, I guess we'll have to let a slightly larger band of morons throw their lives away in pursuit of answers that may not exist. Bummer. And here I was, so excited to charge headfirst into this without even a second thought. But, you know, there's only 4 of us. 5, actually. Dude, for real? You couldn't just stay dead back at the beach house? Well, whatever. This doesn't change a thing. As Tata points out, Crispy Bacon over there is a colossal piece of garbage that will almost certainly screw us over the first chance he gets. The fact he's already got his bracelet on means nothing. If anything, it's all the more reason we should bag this one-way trip and see what the Jack of Clubs is all about. Dude can park his well-done in the shade and wait for someone else to come by. Nah, it's fine. Why not blindly trust this loser? It's not like our very survival depends on winning or anything. Besides, how bad could it possibly be? Yeah, the answer is real bad. As it turns out, the guy who created this thing is totally nuts. After monologuing to everyone, including his own teammates, about the joys of prolonged UV exposure, King No Pants kicks things off by laying down the rules. The name of the game is Shipment. Well, it's osmosis, but that's what I'm calling it. And much like the Call of Duty map, it's an absolute cluster. Fundamentally, the object of the game is to be the team with the most points after 2 hours. Each team of 5 starts with 10,000 points, which are then divided among the players however they see fit. Points are scored by either battling with players on the opposite team, finding items scattered throughout the maps, or touching the opposing team's base. We'll start with battling, since that sounds the most interesting. Spoiler alert, it's really lame. So, basically, you touch an enemy, and whoever has the most points robs 500 points from the other player, and thus the other team. It's impossible to tell how many points the other player has just by looking at them, so this makes it somewhat of a gamble. To improve your odds, you can hold on to a member of your own team to combine your points totals while while also making it impossible to catch anyone. Yeah, in the show they make it look like a viable strategy for racking up points, but there's no way realistically you can actually catch somebody joined together like this. I mean, I guess if they were really stupid, but they'd pretty much have to be brain dead. Anyway, the key thing to remember about battling is that regardless of whether you win or lose, after a battle, you're out of commission, meaning you can't exchange points in any way until you tag back in at your own base. During this time, if a member of the opposing team touches you, it'll shock the living out of both of you and knock you on the ground. Again, remember that one for later. Next up are items, and they're a complete waste of time. I'll get to why here in a bit, but for now, all you need to know is that there's 6 of them scattered around the map in shipping containers, and if you're the first person to touch one, you, and by extension your team, will get the corresponding number of points, which comes to 10,500 when you add them all together. Finally, we have bases. Each team gets a home base. If you touch the enemy base, you'll get 10,000 points. However, this will not be deducted from the other team's score. You'll also be rendered out of commission. As you can imagine, it's extremely important that you protect this thing. But the good news is goalies are totally OP. As long as you're touching your own base, your point total becomes infinite. And if you touch another player, they, and subsequently their team, lose 10,000 points. Now, of course, most players, even after finding items, probably aren't going to have that many. So this will most likely put them in the negative. And that's bad. If at any time, for any reason, your score drops below 0, we've only got about a minute to wax poetic before getting space lasered.
Hold on.
Yeah,
How do we remember all this?
dude, for real, this game is bullshit. Going forward, we should remember to bring a pen and paper to write down all the rules. After all, the sign said no weapons, and didn't say anything about school supplies. Oh, yeah, that reminds me. Unless specifically forbidden by the rules, my go-to strat for every one of these is to roll in arms into the teeth and whittle down the competition as much as possible. If that means spending all our time between matches looting and scooting, so be it. If I'm going to go down, it definitely will not be because someone else had the foresight to bring in a fork. So, getting back to the matter at hand, or cup runneth over, because I got 2 prime strats that are sure to leave these losers breathing out some new holes in their heads. The first one I call shock and awe. So, remember how I said the key thing about battling is how you get knocked out of commission? Well, it's literally the only reason battles are even worth it in the first place. Seriously, plus or minus 500 points is nothing. There's a 10,000 point white whale flopping around out there. Instead, we're going to use it to turn one of our players into a human weapon against the other team. First things first, we need to allocate our team's points. Obviously, whoever's guarding home base gets the fair minimum, which in this case is 100. Team Harasu figures this out right off the bat, but where they go wrong is setting up only 1 goalie. Team Nerd, on the other hand, is going with 2.
Try the #1 professional moisture solution, Redken's All Soft Hair Care. Restore and retain hair's moisture and shine for up to 72 hours. Formulated with argan oil and hyaluronic acid, powered by science. Prescribed by pros.
Welcome, Peyton.
No waiting for us downstairs.
They'll stand back to back with a pole between them, each one touching home base with their foot to keep both hands open. This ensures 360 degrees of coverage and pretty much makes it impossible for the other team to reach it without getting got. We'll want our slowest and most bloodthirsty teammates here, as this will require 0 running and a killer instinct. So I'm thinking Tata and Crispy. Obviously, Tata doesn't have much of the latter, but he's turtle slow, and honestly, I just don't trust him to do anything else. That leaves Irisu, Usagi, and Kuina for the field team, and it legit doesn't matter how we divide the remaining 9,800 points between them. Really, as long as they all have enough so that 1 or 2 battles won't kill them, that's fine. When the game starts, we'll have Usagi use her special climbing powers to get up on top of the shipping crates and scout ahead, something they'll take advantage of way too late in the game. Her goal will be to spot an enemy player, or players, at which time we'll have one of the others run over and battle them, regardless of the outcome. If that's over, instead of sending them back to base to tag in, we'll have them regroup with the other 2 and carry on. From there, Usagi will follow the now out-of-commission adversary back to their place, taking care to stay out of sight lest they send their own parkour freak after her. Probably work with two as
Well, I didn't even notice that you was
time
on.
is right, the three of us will
You might have
charge
told me that I
in.
just wasn't paying
Player
attention.
up front. He'll hit the goalie and or goalies first and incapacitate them, clearing the way for the two to go tag the base and put us up by a cool 20K. All that's left to do then is bring the field team home as quickly as possible and join the goalies in protecting the base. And boom, we've won. Even if they manage to find all the items, there would be no possible way for the other team to make up the difference. Just why looking for them in the first place is totally pointless, along with the fact that there's an entire ton of shipping containers, and the people who made the freaking game probably know where they all are anyway. Plan number 2 is almost the exact same thing, only with a different ending. I call it Shock and Awe 2. The difference is, after Usagi follows the out-of-commission opponents back to their base, she'll regroup with the rest of the field team and go scouting for another lone enemy player, preferably the same one as before, to add insult to injury. Now, before we spring phase 2, we'll want to use our clothing to fashion a rope with a go-to-sleep loop on one end of it. Once we find a suitable mark, we'll have our out-of-commission players zap them and knock them down, and then the others will rush in and loop the rope around one or both of their feet, taking extreme care to not touch their skin in the process as to avoid a battle. From there, we just drag them screaming back to our base to have Crispy put the finishing touches on them, at which point we'll go up 10,000, they'll go down 10,000, and their player gets to tell us all his entire life story while we wait for them to get zapped. You picked me. You better use this to win. If I die in vain. Just like before, this will create a 20,000 point deficit that will be impossible for them to overcome. Best part about either of these plans is that they still remain perfectly viable, even after the other team first takes the lead. Even more so because it cost them one of their players, and they ended up pulling their goalie into the field to help search for items. Unfortunately, Arasu decides to focus all their effort on items as well, allowing the enemy team to rack up a massive lead in the process. And by the time he realizes the value of out-of-commission players, his team feels comfortable enough to leave 3 people watching their base. Still, they could have pulled it off had Kalina immediately sprang into action the moment Crispy cleared the goalpost. Seriously, what the hell were you waiting for? Not to mention the fact that she got tagged, making the deficit even that much wider. Of course, I can't pin this all on her. After all, Arasu pretty much just laid there and watched instead of using his special status to lead the block. You were only shocked for a second, dude. The guy Crispy shocked literally had time to get back on his feet and jump kick your friend out of midair while you were still rolling around on the ground. What gives? After that blunder, I can't exactly blame Team Arasu for coming apart at the seams. Well, except for Crispy and what he does to Usagi. Can't really show that. I get it now. Garbage. Say what you want about Tata, he totally called that one. Fact is, there's literally no possible way they could actually win at this point. You know, unless the King of Clubs himself decides he cannot wait 10 minutes to go on a walk. You can see the scoreboard just like everyone else, right? You know they're only down by 500 points, and it's not out of the question that they could ambush you with a combined score and turn things around. For Christ's sake, at least take somebody with you. You'd still have 2 people to keep the base locked down. Ultimately, it doesn't even come down to a dramatic final showdown. Arasu just straight up asks to shake his hand. Alright, okay, there's a little more to it than that. Turns out the stress of his impending death, coupled with years of being ashamed of his own incompetence, pushed Tata over the edge. I mean, hey, nothing in the rules said you couldn't pull the bracelet off your teammate's mangled wrist and slip it into your pocket for one final battle. You're way more screwed up than I thought. Oh, okay, says the barren lunatic who built a death game with like a million rules. Sorry, I'm willing to take advantage of my friend's noble sacrifice in order to survive. You're right, I'm the sicko. Just hurry up and die so we can get out of here. Wishful thinking, I know. Obviously, the sky laser thing is gonna let him filibuster a few more minutes of precious life before the end. But at least we can find out something about the situation at large, right? Now, not really. Turns out he doesn't really know anything. Good thing we went with the king, huh? Elsewhere in the city, it seems Chishia managed to give the king of spades the slip, only to throw himself right back in the thick of it with a casual jack of hearts. This one's called solitary confinement, but I think the name death sentence more accurately conveys the nature of this game. The rules are fairly simple, but don't let that fool you. This is nearly impossible. There are 20 contestants, all wearing dead money collars around their necks. On the back of each collar is a screen showing one of 4 card suits. Every hour, players will separate into individual jail cells and say out loud which suit they think they have. If they get it right, they go on to the next round. If not, reflection to look at your own suit is expressly forbidden, and since it changes every round, your chances of guessing your way out of this are basically zero. Instead, your only real option is to ask your fellow players what it is. Sounds easy enough, right? After all, what possible reason would anyone have to lie? Well, we're getting to that. You see, hidden among the players just so happens to be the Jacker himself. The game will run indefinitely until either he dies or everyone else dies. So, now you see the problem. The only way out of here is to trick the Jack into saying the wrong suit. Since we have no idea who that might be, no matter how we approach this, the only way out is by systematically eliminating other players until we finally get our man. Naturally, the easiest way to beat this one would be to go into it with at least one close friend who you trust implicitly. At that point, it would be impossible for either one of you to be eliminated, and you can both simply lie down your mounts in so complete and utter chaos without fear of reprisal. However, being this is a hearts game, pretty much no one would think to do that, since under most circumstances, you'd be required to stab your buddy in the back.
Yeah, but only game meant to get one though.
Violence of any kind to kill other players is strictly prohibited. I know, so we can't just battle royale our way to victory. That said, there's nothing that says we can't severely injure people to the point that they
Frost
deliberately
Flash is only coming. Frost Flash is only female.
You'd still need someone to watch your back, so to speak. And attacking others is a great way to get the ass.
And if I want a glade,
Shirt, for example.
to be perfectly honest, for Glalie, I want that.
We all know how this ends. Seriously, how could you not see that coming? At the same time, you should know better than to nail this dirtbag. Even if it's justified, being the first person to take someone out will undoubtedly raise suspicion, and he totally pays for it. The fact is, all he had to do to keep the bully pro from beating on him was give him the answer. Besides, it seems pretty unlikely that Jack would be so quick to paint a target on his back, which brings me to the core of our strategy. There's absolutely no way to identify the Jack based on anything besides how they play the game, so we'll have to find a way to make him expose himself. At first, one might think we need to create a situation in which no one can possibly lie without getting caught, kind of like the nutcase in the blue dress does by forming a group to keep each other honest. The problem with doing this is that everyone, including the Jack, will know that taking someone out or trying to manipulate people will immediately make them a target, and thus nothing actually gets done. Sure, there's no time limit, our visas can't expire, and we have enough food and water to last us quite a while, but after a few days of no one sleeping longer than an hour at a time, pretty much everyone will be too delirious to be trustworthy. There's a good chance we might end up sleeping through our date with destiny. On the other hand, if there's no accountability at all, then no one trusts anyone, and people will start blowing.
Welcome to Zulily, a shopping paradise with deals on every scroll. For the house.
Blowing each other's heads off left and right, which is just as bad for the Jack as it is for us, since they also depend on getting answers from another player. This is pretty much where Little Miss Robespierre's group falls apart. She turns it from a circle of trust into her own private hit squad, and everyone becomes so paranoid that they eventually turn on her. Thank God for that one. I mean, I get she wasn't a Jack, but only a total psychopath would go bobbing around like a Disney princess in this nightmare world. We're all probably better off without her. Ultimately, all this is to say that we need to strike a balance between order and chaos to get through this, and that pretty much means there can be no single solution that encompasses the entire group. Nor can everyone run off on their own. Instead, we, meaning our individual player, need to find a single partner early on, preferably someone less intelligent and or assertive than ourselves, and make them understand that they're just as dependent on us as we are them. We then need to ensure that they trust absolutely no one else by constantly reinforcing this notion in their mind, which will only become easier once everyone else starts cutting each other's throats. This is the same strategy Chishia, Suit Bro, and the ex-con all employ, which is why they and their respective toadies all make it to the final six. Central to this approach is making sure our partnership is publicly known. That way, Jack or not, they won't dare take us out in fear of being isolated. Of course, for that very same reason, we'll want to make sure whoever we team up with is mentally and emotionally stable.
I won't do this. Seems I lost my partner.
Oh, yeah. Good luck explaining that to everyone else. Barring this unforeseen development, our only way forward would have been to remain vigilant for any signs of cross-contamination contamination between pairs. With 6 players remaining, the Jack wouldn't betray his partner directly, as this would leave him the odd man out. But he may try to single out and subtly manipulate members of other groups into moving on their teammates. However, this wouldn't come out of the blue. In all likelihood, the Jack would have been conspiring with this person in secret for some time now, which is all the more reason we need to keep an eye on our other half. In this case, Shishi discovered Soup Girl was taking flash from the guy with the hair after realizing they were surreptitiously confirming each other's symbols with color-coded snack bags. It's ridiculous if you ask me, but whatever. He probably would have gotten away with it if not for our guy's Jimmy Neutron-level plot intelligence.
Caught on pretty quickly.
Yeah, sure you did. However we go about sussing out the Jack, once we find him, we need to approach him in secret the first chance we get and tell him we think it's someone on the other remaining team. Doesn't matter who, we just need him to think he's got us fooled. Make ourselves appear like less of a threat. Now, things get messy. If he was working with someone on the other team, we just let nature take its course and then fatally shun the surviving player. It's what they get for making a jump anyway. This is when our mutual trust with our teammates is more important than ever. With only our pair and the Jack's pair remaining, the 2 of us need to split up and independently meet with the Jack. Each of us claiming we're going to do the other end. Provided he takes the bait, the Jack will then proceed to flip on his own teammate, thereby hosing himself in the process. It's far from an exact science, for sure, but it's pretty much the only chance we would have at that point. Rewinding for a second, if it turns out the Jack was in cahoots with our partner all along, then we'd have no choice but to put him down, leaving us in the exact same position Shishia finds himself in right now.
Looks like I'm screwed.
Chill out, Geralt of Rivia. We're not pwned yet, although, admittedly, it's not looking good. That said, there is an upside to this situation. Since everyone thinks we're it, we can do and say literally whatever we want to try and mess with them. I mean, there's absolutely no way we can trust them to give us the correct suit now. In fact, Shishia ends up playing this to his advantage by using the 2 phony answers he receives from the lesser intelligent members of the 2 pairs to make it a 50-50. Well, Jesus, when Anton Chigurh says it doesn't feel like that much of a win. Now, he did improve his odds past 50-50 by asking the other players as well. With Club and Hard Out being phony answers, that leaves Diamond and Spade. None of the other players had a Diamond, and 2 of the other players already had a Spade, which is the potential max if all the suits were being represented equally between the remaining players. So, the obvious choice becomes Diamond. Either way, it's all we got. So, I hope you've been brushing up on your ESP. Now, you know this dude's gonna clutch it. I can't even remember any of the other guys' names. Unfortunately, even if we guessed correctly, we'd be pretty much done for unless we found a way to get through to the others beforehand. After all, the Jack would probably assume he took us out of the picture, prompting him to waste his partner and Psyop Superboy to take hers out along with herself. At that point, it'd just be the 2 of us, meaning we'd both be left with a 75% chance of blowing our heads off. Fortunately for us, Suit Guy and the ex-con bonded over the urinals to forge a secret alliance of their own, allowing the 3 of us to dramatically emerge from our jail cells one by one to rain on the Jack's parade. As for why his own partner didn't light him up, it turns out Aerosoup isn't the only one looking for some answers. Like I said before, nothing in the rules says you can't make them wish they were dead.
Sorry that we met. There are a lot of other ways out.
Finally, your stupid parlor game gave me a migraine. Alright, let's check in with Aerosoup and company. Having lost Tata to exsanguination, the main group is down yet another player. And to make matters worse, Quina left to wander a massive city patrolled by a heavily armed psychopath to search for a single person that may not be alive. Can't see that going sideways. As for Aerosoup and Nusagi, they take advantage of their newly extended visas to rustle up some grub the old-fashioned way. Jesus, you're really gonna try catching rabbits by hand. It's called a snare, you hillocks. Seriously, it's a good thing this isn't one of the games or you'd both be screwed. In fact, you know what? That's my death game. We'll tie some kitchen knives and razor blades to them and make it sporting. Catch 3 rabbits before the time runs out, or get space laser. I call it blood bunnies. Rank God Emperor of Spades. Hopefully it makes the cut for season 3. Suddenly, a nearby commotion leads them to the site of a massacre. I wonder if this has anything to do with the roving gunman smoking everyone in sight. I know, let's ask this guy.
Are you okay?
Dude, for real? That's what you're gonna lead with? Oh, well, he wasn't all that helpful anyway. Regardless, it's time to GTFO. The fact that there was someone clinging to life around here suggests it went south so much recently, meaning the killer might still be in the area. We can check the bodies for warmth if we want to be sure. But I wouldn't even waste time doing that, knowing the King of Spades could be lining us up with a 50 this very second. Yeah, it's probably fine. Might as well just corner ourselves inside this RV turned dorm room to watch the loser's home videos. After all, I'm sure he captured something truly profound, and not just a bunch of disjointed garbage. Let me save you a watch. The film is composed mainly of random nonsense, culminating in a dramatic interview with some lobotomite who claims she remembers how they all got here. But just as she's about to say something totally unverifiable, you know who shows up to tell her about the rabbits.
They weren't actually.
Well, at least now we know what happened, as if it were actually a mystery. The good news is, Spielberg managed to get some footage of Anne before he got doped, so at least we know she's still alive, right? No, not really. She could have just as easily been killed immediately after this was recorded, and even if she wasn't, there's no telling where that was captured, or where she was even headed, so this was pretty much just a complete waste of time. The only question now is, why is the ground shaking? Well, wouldn't you know it, everyone's favorite mass murderer came back for a sequel. What, you idiots never heard of the killer always returning to the scene of the crime? That said, the only way he could have known to start lighting up the RV would be if he had some kind of tracking technology, which makes sense, considering there's an armed satellite watching her every move. Of course, this means our only option is to run like hell. This hiding is completely out of the question. It's also one of the few times when splitting up actually makes sense, even if it means we have to search for each other later on. Not only can he only go after one of us, he might just bag it all together in favor of a more densely clustered prey he can mow down all at once. It's kind of his thing. However, while Arisu manages to give KOS the slip, it seems he's not out of the woods yet. Wait, was that a spear? Great. Can't wait to see how this turns out. Fortunately, instead of getting trussed up like a hog, Arisu awakens sometime later to find he was rescued by his former beach buddy, Aguni, along with his stalwart teenage sidekick, Akane. Evidently, they knocked him out to stop him from getting himself killed. You know, because a serious head injury isn't going to be a huge liability out here. Seriously, you couldn't just pull a classic, come with me if you want to live? At least then you wouldn't have to carry his ass. Quick side note, in case you were wondering how Akane became the Blade Runner, turns out it happened shortly after she entered the zone. One second, she's gossiping with her girlfriends walking home from high school. The next minute, she's standing in the middle of a stadium with 16 randos. This one's called How to Make Soccer Less Boring, and it's a 7 of spades. The object is to not die horribly as the entire stadium caves in on itself. Oh, yeah, that looks fair. Strategy-wise, not a lot I can say besides run like Tom Cruise and keep an eye out for exit signs. And even then, if your number's up, your number's up. In the end, only Akane made it out alive, but not without taking a piece of rebar through the shin. Fun. Lucky for her. She was able to find a doctor willing to operate for a nominal fee, of course. Turns out, even in the Upside Down, nothing in this world is free, which our hero is about to learn the hard way. In exchange for saving his life, Arisu's rescuers conscripted him to their mission to hunt down the King of Spades. What's their plan? You might ask. Don't worry about it, dude. Why don't you just hang out in the tent and relax? We'll take care of everything else. Safe to say, on a manhunt, if you can't figure out who the bait is, it's probably you. But at least they were nice enough to give him the pump action. Let's hope he knows how to use it, because here comes the big bad right now. Looks like he's got himself a sweet pair of dual tubes with white phosphorus. I call dibs on those when this is all over, provided our new friends get off their asses before he remembers he has an assault rifle. That was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Someone put a quadruple tap in this guy before he pulls a selfie. Dude's running nods, a light 50, and frag grenades. Obviously, he's gonna have some kind of plate carrier on. See what I mean? What a waste of an ambush. Now you have to deal with him head on, and that's probably not gonna go great for you, especially since a third of your attack force can't even stand up to the recoil of the weapon you gave him. For real, Arisu's lucky he got blown off the edge before things got too crazy. This guy's basically John Wick. He's got the equipment to match. So if the three of us couldn't take him out in the surprise party, we should have just hit him with another flare and throw dogs at him. After all, if a grizzled vet like a Aguni couldn't take him in a one-on-one gun duel, what hope do the rest of us have? Killer moves and all, but you know who would have been more disruptive than a flying jump kick? One of those broadheads through his eye socket. What, is that move just for decoration? Oh, well, props to her for keeping Aguni's narrative arc alive. Something tells me we'll need it later on. Now on his own, Arisu sets out to find Usagi. Maybe good luck with that. Might as well check in on Kuina to give him time to search. Looks like she's landed herself in some kind of 1v whatever cage match. Jack of Spades, my ass. How is a single person supposed to fight off over a dozen people armed with pipes and machetes? At least with a king, we could go around recruiting an army of nobodies to soak up all his ammunition while we hide. I mean, supervised from a good safe distance. Actually, never mind. She seems to be handling things just fine on her own. That said, for those of us without her level 9,000 plot armor, our only chance would be to use one of those loose weapons to knock out the only overhead lamp lighting up the dojo. From there, it becomes a simple game of reverse Marco Polo until the time runs out. Oh, yeah, I forgot about the name. How about be a main character? I like it. Okay, Arisu. Find her yet? Actually, yeah, she was at the first game he decided to play. Only travels, Usagi ran into an orphan who somehow managed to stay alive long enough to make it this far. Great. You're telling me, in addition to fighting tooth and nail just to barely save our own lives, we have to babysit this kid? Could you imagine if we had to carry him through something like the cargo container game? He'd make Tata look like pre-2018 Kratos. You know, the cool one. Oh, and to top it all off, you brought him to the Queen of Spades. Not even a clubs game where we can at least count on working together. Plus, for all you know, it involves powerlifting. Or, I don't know, maybe more of this. You know what? Fine. I'm sure the kid will be a huge asset.
So
It
he
doesn't
has
foster a
Dragon
sense of
Guard.
self-preservation one iota. Let's just get to the rules. So this one's
So he
called
has
Flying
Dragon
Tag.
Guard.
We'll find out why here in a minute. For starters, there are two teams. The Challenger team, us, with 16 members, and the Queen's team, with only 4. Each player wears a vest with a large button on the back and lights indicating which team they're on. The game itself consists of 16
I
rounds
just looked it up,
lasting
dude.
5 minutes each. In one round, the Queen's team will try to tag as many of us as possible. Those who get tagged will be unable to go until the next round, at which time they'll become members of the opposite team. You probably already know where I'm going with this. In round 2, we chase them, and it goes
They're
back and
all
forth
in
like
there.
that until the end of the round 16. When
There's
whoever
been
has the
some new
most
cards
players on their
released
team
in Smash
wins.
Bros.
If
That's
you're like
only
me,
4
right now
Master
you're thinking something like, why the hell wouldn't everyone just let themselves get tagged so that we could all be on the winning
Not
team?
all
Well,
in there.
there's a catch. Each team has a king who isn't allowed to change sides. And take a wild guess who our king is.
I choose him.
Yep, that figures. Thanks again, Usagi. I'm kidding, of course. This is an absolute non-issue. What do I care if some random rugrat gets instant in this hole? It'll be a lot more humane than all the other horrific ways you can go out. Tough luck. The rest of us are lining up on round 1 to go join the winning team. There is one more caveat here I forgot to mention. If we win on the Queen's team, then we technically haven't beaten the game. But we will be allowed to remain here as temporary citizens and continue playing against other teams of challengers until someone inevitably wins. So, okay, we can't actually end this nightmare unless we win as the challengers, but therein lies the beauty of it. And as long as we fight for the Queen of Spades, our visas won't expire, and the King of Spades can't touch us. At that point, we just hang around here and build our strength while other players work through the rest of the face card games. Eventually, this will be the only game remaining, at which time we'll have both our ninja warrior skills, the math knowledge to turn the tables on the Queen of Spades, and earn our ticket home. But nerd, you say, the Queen's team only has 4 players, including herself. How do we know she won't just keep 3 of us and let the rest get zapped? Well, by some strange twist of fate, it turns out she has some kind of weird crush on our young Arisu. For real, check this out.
Arisu is something.
Yeah, exactly. I want him.
See what I mean? That's the gravy train right there, fellas. I mean, I could think of a lot worse than playing concubine to some warrior queen. Yeah, sorry, Usagi. We're gonna have to put a pin in that awkward romance of ours until we can finally sort this out. You understand, right? Of course, there's no telling how long it might take for all the other games to be cleared. From our penthouse suite to the parkour tower, we might be able to see the other face card flips exploding as contestants finally win, or by secretly questioning each new wave of contestants in waifu tag as to how many other games there are left. It could take some time. I mean, that King of Spades dude was hard as hell to kill. We might eventually be forced to start a family with her. Just think, she's becoming fully invested in our future together, her better judgment being corrupted by rising oxytocin levels as she carries her nerd child, her athleticism and physical fitness taking a hit from the pregnancy, with the last of the other games being beaten and the queen being time to betray her and run off into the sunset with Usagi. All it took to ensure our victory setup was a child sacrifice, directly causing the death of countless waves of contestants joining the challenger team, indirectly causing the death of countless waves of contestants whose visas expired, betraying a pregnant chick we got to fall in love with us, and keeping our true lover at a distance while we started a family with an evil but shit, too easy. Now, with our setup complete, we employ my foolproof strats to put this one in the bag. I call it 300-ish. First thing we do is allow ourselves to be attacked by the challenger team before they lose a numerical advantage. Once it's our turn to defend, instead of scattering like a bunch of stupid cockroaches, we all hang together in a sort of phalanx formation, back ourselves into a corner. After all, they can't tag us and they can't reach our backs, and the rules allow us to fight back as long as we don't use weapons. Now, just imagine how pissed off she'll be when we stab her in the back. Yeah, we better be ready to scrap, because this will be a literal battle of life and death. It goes without saying, the best fighters will be up front, with everyone else watching their backs and using their hands to cover the first row's light buttons, and to make sure no one gets dragged out of the ranks. If all goes according to plan, we'll be able to maintain our numbers throughout the round, at which point enemy players will likely see the writing on the wall and start begging us to tag them over. Having said all this, I suppose we can implement this strategy from the very beginning if we're just dead set on saving the bedwetter. I get it, some people just have bizarre emotional hang-ups that prevent them from doing what it takes to win. That's just reality. Whatever the case, we'll want to have a backup plan in case we lose the advantage. I mean, I have the utmost confidence in the previously mentioned approach, but it never hurts to have a plan B. In that case, Usagi's idea of winning the others over by inspiring them to strive for something greater than playing pawns in the Queen's Gambit isn't a bad idea. In fact, we should have started doing that from the very beginning.
I want to make it back to our world. This world makes kindness easy to forget. I want to return.
Okay, not quite sure what all that means, but it seems to do the trick. Probably also worth mentioning how most of the winners on the Queen's team would probably be killed off to make room for the next match. Even if it's not true, a little blood can go a long way, especially when there's lasers involved. Other than that, it's just a matter of running the others down and falling back to the phalanx formation whenever we're on the defensive. Of course, the Queen of Spades isn't going to just lay down and die, so we'll probably have to bait her into an ambush using Arisu, and then rush her as a group to put her out of commission permanently. I'm sure Usagi won't have a problem with that. Ultimately, the challenger team pulls it together in time to save the boy, and all it cost us was the surest path to surviving the card game as a whole. As for the Queen of Spades, she decides to go out with a bang. Well, I guess it's more of a sickening thought. Oh, and before you ask, she didn't share anything valuable about the overall situation before hitting Zap. So I guess we're all gonna have to stay tuned to figure out just what the heck's going on here. Alright, what's next? Well, elsewhere in town, it seems Chishia decided to pit itself against the King of Diamonds. But dude, like, why though? After beating the Jack of Hearts, you've got like 11 days on your visa. Let someone else tackle this. Nah, who am I kidding? Nobody without their own page in the wiki is pulling this one off. This game's called Meltdown, and despite involving math, it's actually very entertaining to watch. For this one, all 5 players, including the King of Diamonds himself, are strapped to their chairs. Each round, they'll go around the table choosing numbers between 0 and 100. The average of their choices will then be multiplied by 0.8, and whoever is closest to the resulting product wins, while the others all lose 1 point. Everyone starts at 0, and if you drop down to -10, you're out, which is where these giant scales come in. With every lost point, they fill up with a little more sulfuric acid until you're eliminated, and then... Oops, spoiler alert, as if we didn't already know who's going to be walking out of here. Also, new rules are added after each death, but we'll deal with those when we get there, which is going to be soon, by the way, because this one's worse than the Jack of Hearts. So, strategy-wise, holy Hitman, let's start with what we know. Picking a number over 80 is pointless, since 80 is the largest possible output, and since everyone knows that, picking a number over 64 is also pointless. Then that means picking a number over 51 is pointless, which would mean picking a number over 41 is pointless, which, yeah, you see where this is headed. It's a race to the bottom. If everyone picks 0, then the answer will always be 0, meaning no one loses, and this game lasts until we all die of dehydration. Well, either that, or we all lose at exactly the same rate. Thus, everyone gets melted at the same time, and that won't do either. Oh, and Just to get this out of the way, there's no indication whatsoever that outside weapons and cold-blooded murder are off limits here, and given there's an acid bath involved, I'd say this is definitely the game where we'd want to give those a try. I mean, considering everyone's belted in, all you need is a knife to cut yourself free and do the deed. We also know for sure Shishia has at least one of those homemade explosives scrolled away, but without knowing the effective blast radius, it's probably best we save it for the 1v1. So, back to the maths. Just like Jack of Hearts, the only way we can move things along is by creating conditions where other players can be eliminated, and that means making decisions that aren't perfectly rational. Sure, you can try and predict what others will do, but they're going to be basing their actions on predictions of what everyone else is going to do, leaving us with a never-ending cycle of predicting people's predictions.
I think all of you are overthinking this.
Just saying, you should probably listen to this guy. I mean, just look at his hair. This is what does in the first two guys. They both think that they can read everyone's minds based on what the most logical choice would be for them to make. But people don't really work that way. Fact is, the guy who created this game is a lawyer, not a mathematician. So unless he double majored, the solution here probably doesn't involve solving insane multivariable equations in one's head. If anything, it's more about convincing people to feel a specific way. So, on to the number picks. To start things off, I'll go with something pretty much middle of the road. And just like Shishia, that's 32. Reason being, anything over 80 is pointless. And the median of 0 to 80 is 40. 40 times 0.8 equals 32. For what I'm sure are a variety of different reasons, everyone else goes with a number close to this, with the King of Diamonds winning on 29. Now, logically speaking, as we all lose points, our answers will start trending towards 0, since that would be the safest choice. However, you don't want to pick 0 too early, or you'll lose the early rounds, and you'll prematurely start the race towards 0. But as stated previously, once everyone starts doing that, the game can't progress, so I'd probably just drop my number by only half each time to keep from causing a panic. 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, 1. Once we notice everyone's answers drop below, say 5, we should shake things up like Shishia does by dropping a hundo in the next round.
Why'd you do that? You picked 100, that means you'll always lose.
Bruh, you think I don't know that? The point is you all lost too. Of course, had everyone still chosen 0 here, Shishia would have been the only person to lose. But since this lady went with a 1, she ended up winning, and the rest of us, including the king, all lost a point. Herein lies the object of the game. Bleed everyone out as quickly as possible by maximizing the amount of chaos in the system and making the safest bet unsafe. It ensures that at least 4 people will get dinged every time, especially those that choose 0. Outside of that, it's just a guessing game. The fact that the king won 4 times in a row is purely coincidental. However, let's say everyone, including what's-her-name, all picked 0s, and only we, as in Shishia, lost. The next round, I'd go with the 100 again, just make it glaringly obvious to everyone that they could very likely hurt us all by picking a number between 1 and 47. 101 divided by 5 times 0.8 equals 16.16, and 147 divided by 5 times 0.8 equals 23.52. After all, we would have been every bit as hosed picking just 1 as 100 at that point. But it wouldn't have stirred things up as much. As soon as it's clear that someone else understands this, things will have reset in a way. I'd bring my number back around to 32 again in case someone followed my example, and then gradually coast back down towards 0 without actually hitting it. In this case, Shishia only had to win twice to outlast the first 2 players, who both picked 0 more than anyone else in the game, including on their final turns. At least have the decency to do them both at the same time. The anticipation. My God, with 2 players down, we get 2 new rules. First, if 2 or more players pick the same number, they automatically lose, even if that number is correct. This means we can't all just 0 out to save our own skins. The second rule states that if someone's choice is a direct match with the output number, everyone else loses 2 points instead of 1. However, for the same reason, after hearing all this, everyone hit 0, which, along with 1 and 2, are the numbers multiple people are most likely to choose. Plus, by picking 0, you're ensuring that you couldn't possibly hit the output number dead on, since it would have to be higher than that by virtue of the others having picked something else. As for how this development influences our strategy, it doesn't. If I'm Chishia with -8 in that situation, I'm starting things over with a nice 32 and hoping for the best. Win or lose, I'm going from there down to 16 just like before, which would put me close to the 23 Chishia went with. And in a shocking turn of events that would give Jim Carrey fits, that turns out to be a bingo. Question is, how?
When you put someone on the spot and ask them to choose a number, they usually go for 8s, 3s, and 5s. And some of those are prime.
Oh, you straight up guessed. Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah, get out of here with your prime numbers. No one's buying it. Not to mention the fact that you would have had to have known the king would be going with a 1. Whatever. Get melted, lady. Let's get this over with. Now down to only 2. The final rule is revealed. If one player chooses 0, the other player will insta-win by choosing 100. And with that, the game has just morphed into rock, paper, scissors. A simple child's game, based almost entirely on luck, with a pinch of prediction. Think about it. 0 beats 1 because 1 divided by 2 multiplied by 0.8 is 0.4. And 1 beats everything above it because the final output would always be less than half of the other number. It's actually worse than that, since picking the same number would cost us each a point, and with Shishia at -9 to the king's -7, that would be the end of it. I hate to say it, but our chances of pulling this off are dismal. 1 in 27 to be exact. So unless this stone-faced rule has a major tell, I'd say it's time to open up our can of worms. Fortunately for Shishia, he was able to piece together this dude's entire life story in the short amount of time they've been sitting across from one another. It turns out he created this game to completely remove himself from having to choose who dies by leaving it purely up to chance. Knowing this, Shishia straight up tells him he's gonna choose 100, thereby forcing the decision on the king regardless. Guess what? Dude deliberately loses 3 times in a row because of this.
I gave you a chance to make that choice. I'm so jealous of you.
I'm sorry, you say you're jealous of the guy that just got melted to death by a vat of acid. Yeah, you definitely belong here. Well, that was fun. Of course, were this a sane world where the villains wouldn't just roll over and die once you guessed what they had for dinner last night, we'd be forced to actually play this guy, and that would almost certainly be the death of us. There's no strategy we can employ here that would give us any kind of advantage. That said, people have overcome far worse odds than this. We just have to trust our gut and see what happens. With the King of Diamonds getting stewed, we're down to only 2 remaining base card games. Well, the only 2 that matter anyway. Just for fun, I'll run through a few honorable mentions that didn't even get their own segments. First up is the Queen of Clubs. Balls to the wall. Yeah, it's basically multi-team dodgeball. Not much I can really say here besides don't get hit. And try to remember the 5 Ds of dodgeball. Deflect, dominate, distract, disarm, disable. You know, this one would be kind of awesome were it not for the whole losers getting lasered aspect of it. Oh, and as you can see, Quina and Anne were finally reunited. So take a wild guess which pair's coming out on top. That said, it's worth mentioning this is yet another game where we have no idea whether outside weapons are allowed. If so, Anne needs to slap leather on that snub nose and start throwing lead. Statistically speaking, people are much easier to hit with a dodgeball after they've been shot. After that is Gym Class Hero. Much like the rope climb in actual gym class, central to completing this one is to get tough and not be a punk. Evidently, the Jack of Clubs himself is among the players, and the game runs until he falls to his death. It's unclear whether everyone knows who he is right off the bat, but either way, our strategy remains the same. When the game starts, we need to slide as far down the rope as we're allowed to, and use the S-grab technique to hold ourselves in place. From there, we tie a stopper knot on the line, so we can easily rest on it and hunker down until this mess eventually sorts itself out. Yeah, good luck keeping that up for any amount of time. As long as our bright idea doesn't catch on, the others will be dropping like flies in no time, especially the Jack after fighting off who knows how many players. Otherwise, I'd much rather take my chances seeing who can hang out the longest without falling asleep than bet the farm playing Tarzan. This next one is a classic, Flee the Beast. At first, I wasn't sure why the King of Hearts would be about solving a labyrinth, but it actually makes perfect sense. You see, there's an easy trick you can use to solve pretty much any maze, called the left hand method. Basically, you take your left hand, ball it into a fist, and then savagely beat the guys next to you so the monster has something to chew on while you find your way out. Piece of cake. And finally, we've got the Jack of Diamonds, Mahjong. You just play Mahjong. Yeah, so I don't actually know anything about this game, but my suggestion would be to cheat and or roll a frag grenade under the table when no one's looking. Other than that, I'm not quite sure what I'm even looking at here. I mean, is this normal? This amount of screaming? Mahjong nerds, let us know in the comments how you'd rig this one down in the comments. Okay, now we're down to the last two. Wouldn't you know it? They're right beside one another in Shibuya, back where it all began. You know you're about to get down on a boss fight when you find a pristine over-under shotgun and shells just flying out in the open. However, that's going to have to wait, as just as Arisu and Shishia are about to reunite for one final mission, our old friend Crispy clacks off a game of his own.
Well, I thought I'd never see it again.
Did you mean to miss a vital organ?
What, do you want him to try again? Nah, that wouldn't be sporting. Like I said, this is his idea of a game. Call it Idiot Royale. Dude even tosses Chishia a piece so he and Arisu can finally hash out that whole "you set me up to get killed back at the beach house" thing. Legitimately, no one remembers nor cares about at this point. Wait, are you guys seriously going to indulge this freak show? For real, Arisu watched firsthand as his dirtbag brutally assaulted his girlfriend's back at the harbor, and he doesn't even have the nerve to waste him on sight. No, instead, he straight up turns his back as part of some self-sacrificing nonsense he's suddenly adopted. Bro, your best friends threw their lives away so you could survive. Are you really gonna piss on their graves by letting this slime ear fool you right now? Fortunately, before Arisu can symbolically throw his gun aside, Usagi shows up in time to remind him what he's fighting for. Nice one, Gandhi. It's a good thing Chishia was there to throw himself in front of that bullet. That said, she wasn't exactly doing herself any favors, standing there like a deer in the headlights waiting to get popped. There's literally a rusted out car every 15 feet out here. I mean, just moving in general would have made it difficult for him to hit you, one-handing it from a distance like that. Well, no time to worry about it now. It seems all this gunfire got the King of Spades' attention. Lucky for us, these last two blimps drew in plenty of cannon fodder to keep him occupied, including all of our surviving friends. Starting to get a little deja vu. However, unlike before, this time we actually have some firepower of our own. I mean, we're not going to use it, even when he's literally walking up for the coup de grace. But at least it looks like we've gained something since our first encounter with this psycho. Seriously though, there's a reason solo missions aren't really a thing. It's pure chaos out here. And as good as Mercenary X could possibly be, there's simply no way he can keep from getting blindsided while he's hyper-focused on the panic-stricken players running all over. Yeah, just like that. Not sure why everyone would be celebrating right now. Has the blimp exploded yet? No, which means he's right about to pull a T-800 and start doing his thing again. Only this time, we get to see his final form. While it seems no one in this universe has ever heard of a double tap, the auto assault did serve as a nice diversion for us to regroup in a nearby building. And look who decided to join the party. Kinda crazy that a Goonie and a Kane would both happen to be in this random lobby we held up in. But hey, I won't question it. Now that we've assembled literally every single morally good character with both a first name and a heartbeat, we'll need a plan to put the bad guy down for good. And apparently Arisu's got something. He wants to lure the king to a nearby pharmacy where they'll use a ton of aerosol to amplify the effects of Shishia's last remaining soda grenade. I mean, it's creative and all, and I'm sure it'll allow everyone to participate in ways that showcase their respective strengths. But here's the thing.
He's just human. He's not invincible. And as for his guns, he'll be able to shoot forever.
All three of these statements are facts, and all three of them are reasons that this plan is unnecessary and ridiculous. You see that weird gray and black thing Aguni's holding? That's a Howitz Type 89, and it gives him the power to take life from farther than 5 feet away. Sure, he's down to his last magazine, but for the reasons mentioned previously, that's all he's gonna need. While Agent 47 is busy clowning on everyone out there, we just need our buddy here to draw a bead on him while he's preoccupied, and it's over. Depending on what kind of plates he's wearing, the body shots might not do the trick, and it'll be pretty difficult to land a headshot from a distance unless he's standing perfectly still. So our best bet would be to go for the lower torso and upper thigh. No matter how battle-hardened you are, a fractured pelvis is going to ruin everyone's day. As for the king's limited ammunition, he's probably not going to just run out all of a sudden and call a timeout. Instead, he'll probably fall back to resupply and re-engage at a time of his choosing, neither of which we can really predict. When it comes right down to it, the sole objective of his game is for us to take him out. Meaning, if he wants to, he can just hold up in a skyscraper and pull a cold skin until our visas expire. That is to say, luring him anywhere might not work, since he has no real reason to follow us, least of all into an enclosed space with gas pouring out of it. Of course, all this is beside the fact that Arisu's plan hinges on a completely untested weapon that might not even work. Are we really about to stake everyone's lives on a science fair project? I guess so, because here goes a Goonie kicking off the relay for death. I could spend 20 minutes covering all the ways this plane goes to but for the sake of time, I'll just whittle it down to the gems. Jesus Christ, someone get this guy a spin-off. Seriously, dude, this homebrew Moab of yours better work, or else literally everyone you care about just died in vain. It's about the time you see 5 people, all more capable than you, sprawled out in a pool of their own drippings, that you start to think, maybe this was a bad idea. Could have just put a Goonie in a second-story window and we'd all be standing over this guy's scarred-up corpse by now. Just saying. Well, it's too late to dwell on it now, because the big bad wolf is standing right outside the door. Only problem is, he doesn't exactly have to know about you filling the place with a kiloton of Axe body spray to realize this is a trap. I mean, he saw you run in there with a loaded shotgun. All I can say for sure is, thank God he was using a 9mm. Looks like a Goonie wants the platinum chip back. Here's hoping this thing actually works. Through it! Cool, yeah, that was great and all, but if you had a loaded gun this whole time, why didn't you just put one in the back of the dude's skull when he was standing outside the door? I mean, staking our survival on your ability to perform some top shot with a serious head injury seems pretty irresponsible, doesn't it? It worked, I guess. Nothing left to do now but scrape up what's left of Usagi and pay the Queen of Hearts a visit. Nah, I'm kidding, of course. She's actually fine. Well, she has those stab wounds on her legs, but trust me, she's alright. In fact, literally all of our people are totally fine. Queen is fine, Ant's pretty much dead right now, but she'll be fine. Oh wait, Shishi and Crispy, yeah, they're both totally fine. Even Akane's fine. She basically got shot in half lengthwise. Everyone's just fine. Down to their final challenge, Arisu and Usagi scale a nearby building where they find Queen Mira eagerly waiting their arrival. Gotta admit, he's taken a huge risk bringing someone he cares about into a Hearts match, especially the Hearts match. Might have been a better idea to go this one alone. This last game is called My God, I Can't Believe They're Really Playing Croquet. The rules are pretty straightforward. Each side gets 2 balls. To win, you need to put the balls in the... Wait, why am I doing this? The rules are croquet rules. We just have to play 3 rounds of this absurd game and we're done. We don't even have to win.
You just have to complete 3 little sets of croquet games without withdrawing. If you decide to give up, game over.
Uh-oh, I think I'm starting to get it now. There's no possible way it's that simple.
It's so simple.
Shut up. No, it's not. It couldn't be. Otherwise, someone would have done this already. The fact that she mentions giving up is a major red flag. Why would we give up if this is all it is? There has to be some kind of slow and painful torture involved, you know, besides playing croquet. At the very least, she's just gonna try and drag things out for all eternity. And sure enough, after making it through 2 sets, Mira suggests they postpone the final leg to have a tea party. Boy, didn't take long for the other shoe to drop on this one. So, obviously, the correct answer is no thank you. There was nothing about drinking tea in the rules, and anyone with a fistful of brain cells could tell this is where she tries to make us quit. At this point, if demanding we continue isn't enough, I say we immediately resort to violence. Now, in the beginning of the game, Mira said outside weapons were allowed, and while she didn't specifically mention how they were to be used, she also didn't say we couldn't blow her head off. However, as Arisu comes to realize, this might not be such a great idea. After all, the only way to clear the game is to complete 3 sets.
That means they would make this game go on forever. If that happens, all the other players are doomed to wait until their visas expire.
Well, maybe. The rules did say we have to make it all the way through, but they never said anything about us playing with her. I mean, just look at the setup for this game compared to all the others. No electronic collars or wristbands tracking our every move, just balls and mallets. For all we know, we can play the last set with Usagi. Fortunately, we don't actually have to waste her to give this a try. If Queen flat out refuses to budge on the issue, I say we tie her up with shoelaces or something and give it a shot on her own. If that doesn't work, well, it's not like she's a bodybuilder or anything. We could probably just force the mallet into her hands and swing for her like an overzealous golf instructor. It's certainly worth a try. Oh, of course, there's one thing I'm forgetting. Guys, Arisu and answers. Sure, he might act like he doesn't want to wait, but you just know deep down he's dying to ask her all sorts of questions. Questions she's not going to be able to answer because literally no one here knows anything. That much should be obvious by now. For Christ's sake, dude, just do me a favor and don't drink the tea, because that has to be part of her shtick. If it doesn't make you work up your insides, it'll probably take all your bad thoughts and turn them into good ones. Ultimately, the Queen recognizes Arisu's obsession with the truth is the only thing that can slow him down, so she decides to give him exactly what he asked for. It turns out this entire experience has been one giant VR simulation, a video game, if you will. Evidently, in the last 1,000 years, humanity progressed to the point where all our needs were met, except our thirst for adventure. And so the world's population is kept on a continuous dopamine drip by inserting themselves into this world. Crazy, right?
I'm just joking. Not a word was true.
You don't say. Man, it's like she has no reason to be truthful with us. And it doesn't stop there. She just keeps puking up plot twists over and over again. Oh, planes took over the world, and aliens are experimenting on us. Oh, you're actually synths being used for high-stakes underground gambling after a nuclear apocalypse. All the while, Arisu's just eating it up until she laughs right in his face and tells him she was lying. So, what do you think happens when she hits him with a solipsism narrative? It's all in your head. Your friends died in a car accident, and you're in a mental hospital. He buys it without question, of course. Man, it's like the invention of lying or something. I refuse to believe this is actually the final boss. This is more like some kind of semi-serious epilogue after the real threat was dealt with. Only thing is, out of everything he's encountered so far, this comes closer to doing it than anything else. Seriously, if it weren't for Usagi seeing straight through this nonsense and pulling Arisu back from the brink with a burning lung, it would all be over. And in the end, after all this, didn't even have to make the Queen Mira eat her own hair to get back to the game. She's just so moved by the strength of their bond. She lets herself get space lasered. Oh god, finally. It's finally over. We beat Croquet. Of course, before we wrap this one up, I guess it's only fitting we share what really happened. After all, you did stick around to the very end. It was a meteor. A meteor hit Tokyo and basically killed everyone that was involved in the games. Those that survived to the end and declined the offer to become citizens ended up coming back to life in the real world. Those that didn't. So, it was some kind of limbo stage where the dead could fight their way back to life. Or maybe it was all just a crazy dream. I guess that's up to you. In the end, Arisu and all his new friends made it out alive. Well, except for Tata. However, had he taken our advice, he could have probably changed that and spared them all a great deal of suffering in the process. That said, there is one death game I can't quite say we were able to definitively beat without plot armor, and that's the King of Diamonds. As far as I can tell, it's a complete game of chance no matter how you slice it. And for that reason, I think Alice in Borderlands Season 2 was only mostly beaten. Moral of the story, if you can't beat them, join them, gain their trust, and then stab them in the back once they depend on you for love and support.
Site security is a never-ending commitment. I was looking out for yours. I'm talking about enterprise-grade security built into your site and fully managed for you. Check this out. First up, prevention. The Wix platform is secure by design. Security experts are in the dev process, performing threat model, penetration tests, and designing code reviews. And you get a strong encryption for your data in transit and data at rest. E-com sites? Wix is compliant with the highest level of PCI DSS. And it doesn't stop there. The top international privacy and security regulations, they're all in place. You see, it's all about staying ahead of the game. Real-time detection. Wix security never sleeps.
If you were locked in a room and forced to take an impossible test that could cost you your life, what would you do? This movie has so many twisted mind games and will have to destroy everyone else if you want to win. I'm going to break down mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the impossible test in the exam. Nothing in this this room is what it seems. These 8 people are competing for the job of a lifetime, but they have no idea what they're getting themselves into. As they all find their seats, a man suddenly walks into the room. He introduces himself as the invigilator overseeing the test they're about to take, and warns them to carefully listen to every word he says. They'll get the job they're applying for if they pass this test, but they must obey 4 simple rules. First, the exam only has 1 question, and they must provide a single answer. Second, they will be disqualified if they talk to the invigilator or the guard. Third, they can't leave the room for any reason. And finally, they are not allowed to ruin their own papers under any circumstances. With the rules established, the man asks if any of them have a question, but no one says anything. He turns on this countdown timer on the wall and tells them they have 80 minutes to complete the test to determine the next 80 years of their lives. The exam has officially begun, and the man walks out, leaving the applicants alone in the room. Inspecting their papers, they turn them over and are surprised to discover it's completely blank. The only text on the page is the number of each candidate, and the group is confused. Nobody has any idea how to pass this exam, and the applicants look around nervously for answers. Tired of waiting, this woman decides to take a risk and picks up her pencil. She starts writing an essay on the back of her paper, but this was her biggest mistake. Suddenly, the guard grabs her by the shoulder and pulls the woman out of her seat. In tears, she begs to have a second chance and gets thrown out of the room, making that one down with 7 more to go. Okay, this job application is sketchy as hell. The woman was eliminated just for writing on her paper, and that seems crazy until you realize that everything in this room is a mind game. The man told them that if they
I
ruin
guess
their
he was
papers
right.
under any circumstances, that they will be disqualified, and that's exactly what she did. Now, this might have been a good decision if it was a normal job application, but the problem with her logic is that she didn't take in her surroundings to consider that normal is not going to work in this situation. First of all,
How do you
this
mean the
room
best
has
way to
security
grade a movie
cameras
is
in the
to have
corners
them
of the
in one
ceiling,
thing?
and
Which
this
one
thing in the
game?
wall looks like a two-way mirror, so both of these tell us we're being watched. That means our actions are just as important as anything else. Secondly, this security guard walked into the room before they were told the rules, but the strange thing is that he has a gun in his holster. It's not unusual to have security guards in corporate office buildings, but there should be no reason to consider this room a security risk, and it's a sign that this situation has a high chance of turning violent. Now, the most important sign about this test was also the easiest thing to miss. Before this man left the room, he told us that we have 80 minutes to determine the next 80 years of our lives. But the strange thing is, everyone in this room is in their 30s or older. You might argue that the man was just being expressive with his language, but look at him. There's nothing expressive about this guy. He introduced himself as an invigilator, which is the technical term for someone who supervises tests. It's such specific and intentional language that there's no way he didn't realize the meaning of his words. He literally suggested that this job will affect them when they're all 110 years old, which is terrifying. Something very strange is going on here, and it's a disturbing sign of what's to come next. But there's one thing these contestants could have done, which would have gotten them paid much more easily. Honey is the #1 shopping tool in America. It's free, and it makes it so easy for you to save on things that you're already buying on lots of websites that you're already shopping on. The way it works is this tiny little button in your browser is like an online seeming sidekick that does all the work for you. As soon as you're about to buy something you want, Honey will automatically search for coupon codes and find some of the best deals for you without you having to do anything. You get to feel like a king with Honey doing all the work for you. It works on a lot of your favorite websites, and it's free savings, so I highly recommend that you get it. All you have to do is install it, and you can get discounts on all the things you could want. You can use it on clothes, video games, even food delivery or equipment purchases, like this Icebox mobile food here that I use to record, which Honey has a great deal that'll save you a bunch of money. And keeping all that money without having to lift a finger is a great feeling. Add it to your browser for free at joinhoney.com/sim.
You're not gonna scare us. Scare him?
I'm taking you with me. You do what I say when I say it. Safe, you can save.
Carson Che?
I think we should explore a few solutions.
Grammarly ensures your writing conveys confidence, so every message you send makes an excellent. It's an awesome product, and it will really help support the channel. Thank you to Honey for sponsoring this video. Scared of getting kicked out, the others put down their pencils, realizing there's a lot more to this than they thought. One wrong move can get them eliminated, but that's when this man figures something out. He whispers to the applicant across the room and points out there must be loopholes in the rules. The invigilator said they'd get disqualified if they tried talking to the guard or himself, but never said anything about talking to each other. This must mean they're allowed to communicate, and the other applicants begin to relax. He asks if anyone knows what the answer is, but this guy points out they have to figure out what the question is first. The man suggests they should work together to pass this exam. The company will want employees who can cooperate as a team to achieve a common goal, and it makes perfect sense. The others agree to help, but when this guy tries to introduce himself, he's suddenly interrupted. Since they don't know what kind of risks there are, the applicant insists it's safer to use nicknames, and they go around the room. The women will be called by their hair colors, blonde, brunette, and dark, while the men will be referred to by their skin tone, black, white, and brown. The only exception being the last guy, who they'll call deaf, because he hasn't been paying attention. This guy is an asshole for suggesting these nicknames, but the movie and everyone else decides to go along. With everyone accepting the nicknames, the brunette suggests that the question of the exam might be invisible to the naked eye, but she has an idea. Walking over to a light on the wall, she holds up her test paper to see if there's something hidden, but nothing is revealed. The group is disappointed, but that's when Mr. Black points out that there's a spectrum of both visible and invisible light. If this room has the right equipment, it might reveal any hidden messages, and the group looks around for clues. Suddenly, the blonde notices something strange about the wall and inspects this opening, discovering that more light bulbs are hidden inside. Mr. Black realizes the bulbs are emergency lights, but nobody can find the light switch, so the group decides to go for broke. Mr. White here starts breaking all the bulbs with the help of the others, and they plunge the room into darkness. Suddenly, the room is illuminated by ultraviolet black light, confirming that their plan worked. Okay, their theory was correct, but this was still a terrible idea. If this strategy was wrong, then they wouldn't have any light to complete their tests. The risks here are just unacceptable, and that's why I would never have done this. Now, I'm not against damaging company property, but when you have no idea what actions might get you eliminated, then the smartest thing you can do is come up with suggestions and make the others take on all the risks. Mr. White here should never have smashed these lights himself, and if I were him, I would have someone else do the work just in case it gets us disqualified. Tricking others into getting eliminated might actually be easier than answering the question, and if we can do this until we're the last one standing, we might win the job by default. Another way I would try to do this is by suggesting that we request for the lights to be turned off. As long as it's not directed at the guard, people might forget that they aren't allowed to speak to the invigilator, and they'll get disqualified for asking the question. As for the lights, instead of smashing all of them and darkening the roof, it would have been much smarter to break one of the ultraviolet bulbs and hold up a large piece of glass against the wall light. The ultraviolet light is created by the glass, not the actual light source, so by holding it against the wall here, it will filter the wavelengths and expose any hidden messages on the paper. This strategy removes the risk of taking the test in complete darkness, and we'll be able to continue looking for clues. Now, everything that they've tested so far has been allowed, except for this girl who wrote on her paper. It's the only thing they've confirmed will get you disqualified, but that's a huge clue that tells us how to outsmart this twisted mind game. They've realized that whatever they're allowed to do is based on the exact wording of what the invigilator told them, but the longer they continue, the easier it will be for them to forget what he said. If it were me, I would gather the group and write down the surface of this desk, word for word, exactly what we remember him saying. This is going to be the most useful clue we have to figure out what we should be doing and how we should be thinking about this test. It's very possible that this man said something that will only seem important once we're further into the competition. With more information and more clues at our disposal, we won't have to resort to breaking office equipment until we're fired. Excited, the group tries to use the black light to reveal a hidden message, but once again, they find nothing. Mr. White here thinks they've just wasted their time, but that's when the dark-haired woman notices that the top halves of the light strips aren't linked. Holding up a chair, this man cracks one of the bulbs and carefully picks up a shard of glass, discovering there's an extra set of infrared lights in the walls. These might be their next clue, and the women use their heels to carefully break the rest of them, darkening the room. Suddenly, the infrared lights turn on, and the group holds their papers to the bulbs again, but there's no sign of a hidden message. They've only got 60 minutes left, but that's when Mr. White comes up with a clever plan. Walking over to the disqualified woman's desk, he picks up her test and reminds everyone that if they ruin their own paper, they'll be disqualified. But the rules say nothing about using someone else's. Grabbing a pencil, he scribbles end to end across the page, but it reveals absolutely nothing. It's another failed solution, but Mr. White here has one last crazy idea. Folding the paper in half, he rips it into separate squares and gives 2 pieces to the others, telling them to get it wet by any means necessary. He walks away to the other end of the room and urinates all over his sheet. After he zips up his pants, the man examines the page to see if anything's been revealed, but there's still no hidden text. It's frustrating, but that's when they hear this guy muttering to himself at his desk. Turning to listen, they all begin to realize that he's speaking French, and the dark-haired woman figures out he's asking them if they can see it. It doesn't make any sense, and the group thinks he's lost his mind, but that's when Mr. Brown suddenly notices a strange coincidence.
The thing that's different about a verbal vacation home, you always have the whole place to yourself. Just you and your people.
Maytag knows cats shed, which is why Maytag engineered the Pet Pro Washer to remove 5 times more pet hair. Incoming. Cats, right? Conquer pet hair like a pro with Maytag.
Speaking up, he points out how diverse this group of people is and thinks there must be a hidden reason for this. The others don't understand why that would be relevant, but the man explains that the company's board of directors are probably betting on them and that everyone in this room is a player in a game. Okay, this changes everything. Up until now, these applicants think this is just an exam, but it's possible that there's a lot more at stake than a job. If this whole scenario was set up for businessmen to gamble on us, then it's starting to sound like this could turn into a death game under the right circumstances. Things could get ugly really fast, and if resorting to violence becomes an option for us, then this explains why having an armed guard in the room would even be necessary. Once we have good reason to believe that this test is not what we think it is, we need to completely adapt our strategies and act on them before anyone else figures out the implications here. As soon as someone like Mr. White realizes that the dynamic of this room has changed, he's going to consider hurting others to get ahead, and that means we need to take out the most threatening players as soon as possible. First, let's break down who we should consider a valuable resource and who we should consider a threat. Right now, Mr. Black has had the best ideas, the brunette has been the most willing to explore them, and Mr. White has been the most willing to manipulate others. Between these 3 players, this guy is the most dangerous person in the room, and we should try to get him eliminated by any means necessary before this hits the fan. If it were me, I would open the door and call everyone to look at a clue I found on the outside wall. Mr. White is extremely competitive, which means he'll be curious enough to investigate the claim, and when he steps in front of the doorway, I'd push him out, forcing him to get disqualified. It's definitely a risk, but this strategy doesn't explicitly contradict any rules that we've heard from the Invigilator, so it's worth a try. Now, the others might think it's unfair, but by explaining that Mr. White was working against the entire group's interests, they'll be more likely to accept the decision and continue looking for answers to the exam question without him. Walking up to the wall at the end of the room, Mr. Brown suggests that board members are watching them on the other side of this glass, but the dark-haired woman insists he's wrong. If anyone is watching, it's the CEO himself. From what she knows, the man supervises everything in his company, and since this is no ordinary job application, it must be important to him. Mr. Brown asks how she knows so much about the company, but the woman is surprised they don't already have this information. She tells everyone that the CEO is a famous scientist who created medicine for a virus that saved thousands of lives, and for the first time, the group realizes they're competing for a position at a company called Bio. That's when the brunette suddenly has an idea. Walking up to the guard, she searches his pockets and discovers a metal lighter inside. Her instincts were correct. This might lead them to their next clue. Examining the bulbs along the wall, Mr. Black suggests these might actually be safe lights used for developing photos, and they're all inside a giant dark room. If their exam sheets are printed on photographic paper, then that means there might be a hidden image that could be developed with the right chemicals. The brunette moves a desk below the smoke detector and stands on the table, using the the guard's lighter to spark a flame. She raises the fire up to the sprinkler in the ceiling, but nothing happens. Her idea isn't working, but Mr. White decides to step in and help. Secretly taking her exam sheet, he walks over to the disqualified woman's desk and rolls it into a tube before handing the brunette her own paper. She sets it on fire and holds the flames up to the ceiling until the sprinkler finally goes off, soaking everyone's test sheets. They all wait for a hidden image to be revealed, but the group can't see anything. Testing the liquid, Mr. Black takes a droplet from the page and tastes it, only to realize that it's just water. Another idea has failed, but that's when the brunette notices her exam sheet is missing. Turning around, she sees Mr. White smirking at her and realizes she's just been played. Unrolling the burned paper, the woman finds out that she accidentally broke the rules and has ruined her own test. The guard drags the brunette to the doorway and throws her outside, making that 2 down and 6 more to go. Okay, that was cold-blooded as hell, but Mr. White here made a genius play. This woman was so caught up in searching for clues that she completely put herself at risk by letting her guard down and burned her own paper in the process. This is why you should never test the ideas yourself, because if there's a consequence for what happens, it's less likely to fall on you. Now, with so many failed ideas, it might be better to start looking at the situation from another perspective, and the one thing all these failures have in common is the test paper. If the company went out of their way to install 3 completely separate types of light sources, only for it to lead nowhere, then there's a very high chance that anything else we find is just going to be a red herring. Continuing to play this way will only lead to more mind tricks and will eventually run out of time. I would propose that the answer we're looking for has nothing to do with the exam papers, because there's actually another revelation here that they're not focusing on, and that is the selection of applicants in this room. As this man mentioned earlier, these people are so different from each other in race, gender, and background that it can't be a coincidence. It's the statistical improbability that the candidates will be so diverse, and if these qualities factor into the selection process, then we need to take them into account. This could mean that the competition we're in is an experiment. Whoever's observing our actions has a vested interest and might be using us to test a theory. Now, if this sounds like a stretch of logic, don't forget that before the invigilator left, he told everyone that these 80 minutes will determine the next 80 years of our lives, and that can't be an accident. When you put these clues together, it gives us strong evidence that we might be competing to become a test subject and not an employee. Nothing in this test has been about their qualifications, and that should have been a red flag from the very beginning. If passing this exam just means we get to be someone's guinea pig, then I'd rather let someone else have the honor and walk out of this room. With 36 minutes left on the clock, this man has had enough of Mr. White's games and threatens to punch his lights out, when suddenly the room goes completely dark. Mr. Brown here realizes that the lights were voice activated and says lights up, illuminating the room instantly. Hearing someone crying, the men turn around and realize it's Mr. Death. He's reached his breaking point and can't handle the pressure of this exam. Kneeling in front of them, Mr. White here tells the man he should quit the competition and encourages him to rip up his paper. To everyone's surprise, the man obeys, stuffing the page into his mouth and gets himself eliminated. The guard drags him out of his chair, and as he's taken to the doorway, his glasses fall to the floor. He begs the guard to let him stay, but he's thrown out of the room, making that 3 down and only 5 more to go.
Advil liquid gels provide pain relief that's faster, stronger, and longer lasting than Tylenol rapid release gels. So for fast pain relief, Advil, the pain away.
This man calls out Mr. White for playing dirty tricks, but he argues they should thank him for getting rid of the competition. Mr. Black threatens that nobody in this room will help anymore, but the man reveals he doesn't need it because he's already figured out the question. Mr. Brown here asks him to reveal what it is, but the dark-haired woman is sure he'll never tell them. He's shown all the signs of being a textbook narcissist and admits that she knows this because she's a professional psychologist. Offended by her accusation, the man starts flinging insults at her, but Mr. Black here has had enough and knocks him out with a single punch. The plot suggests they might need the guy's help later, and the man argues that he was a threat and needed to be taken out. Noticing the group's disapproval, he lifts the unconscious applicant into a chair and binds the guy's wrist with his necktie, but this one mistake is going to cost him everything. Okay, Mr. White here overplayed his hand. Tricking people into getting eliminated is a great strategy, but he didn't do it with enough tact. The man turned himself into the obvious villain of the group and was openly stirring chaos. It would would have been much smarter to act like a team member on the surface while secretly stabbing people in the back. For example, he didn't have to admit that he handed the girl her own gift and that it could have just been an accident. Even if nobody believes him, maintaining plausible deniability is the only way to keep the strategy working, or else everyone will turn on him instead. That's exactly what happened here. You should have seen it coming, but Mr. White is a complete distraction for a huge clue that everyone has completely forgotten about. The Frenchman who just got eliminated was not much of a competitor, and that actually makes him the most interesting applicant of them all. He couldn't speak English, he wasn't participating, and he had a mental breakdown just taking an exam. This man was completely unacceptable for a job anywhere, let alone a Fortune 500 company, so it's extremely suspicious that he would even be accepted as a candidate. All of these suggest that he might have been an insider for the company and could have been faking his involvement to collect data for the experiment. Now, it might seem counterintuitive to have a researcher in the room because it ruins the integrity of the results, but that depends on what you're trying to accomplish, and there are historical cases to back this theory up. In the 1970s, the Rosenhan experiment was conducted to test if diagnosing mental disorders was multiple or not. A group of 8 researchers were able to get themselves admitted into 12 different asylums by pretending to suffer from mental illnesses, and it proved that the hospital's diagnosing process was flawed. The psychiatrists couldn't tell the difference between a real mental illness or a fake illness. Otherwise, they saw what they wanted to see. The reason this is relevant is because at this point, we can only find our answers by looking for information and hoping it's a clue. If we don't know what we're looking for, then anything could be possible. So the best way to deal with this problem is to start with what we know for certain and reverse engineer it. If we know that we're all here to compete for a high position job, then this man sticks out like a sore thumb, and it becomes pretty clear he could be a researcher disguising himself as an applicant. Now, since he's already been eliminated, we can't question it. But there's still 5 more players in the story, and might know more than they're letting on. So I'm interrogating every single player to make sure there aren't any more imposters in the group. This would give me a better idea of who I'm actually competing against and will be more likely to win as a result. Mr. Black here suggests I could push the man out of the room to eliminate him, and asks if anyone else agrees with his idea. The dark-haired woman is the only person who votes in favor, and with the group evenly split, they begin dragging the chair towards the door, but the blonde woman tells them to stop. She reminds the applicants if they choose to leave the room for any reason, they'll be disqualified, and since Mr. Black is choosing for Mr. White to leave, he might be at risk of being kicked out too. With less than 30 minutes on the clock, the blonde woman tells them their best chance of passing this exam is if they ask Mr. White what the question is. That's when the man suddenly wakes up, confused that he's been restrained, and tries to tell them something. As the woman pulls the gag from his mouth, he explains he has the virus and needs to take the medicine in his pocket, or else he'll die. Mr. Black tells him he'll only help if he reveals what the question is, and with no choice, the man agrees. He checks his pockets for medication, but is surprised to find that there's nothing inside. Mr. White starts to panic and accuses the others of stealing it, but before anyone can respond, the man passes out. He's completely unconscious, and the psychologist here suggests he might have been sent by the company, but Mr. Brown disagrees. This man isn't smart enough to be an imposter, but the psychologist is. She insists that she's just an applicant, but the man points out she knew a lot more about the job opening than they did, and she can't be trusted. Taking matters into his own hands, Mr. Brown suddenly grabs the dark-haired woman by the wrists and ties her to the chair with his belt. Sitting down in front of her, he demands she tell him the truth, and with no way to escape, the woman confesses she works for the company. Okay, this woman is in some deep trouble. She overplayed her hand by sharing too much information, and Mr. Brown picked up on it right away, which was great thinking. It's easy to get so caught up in the details of the game that we forget about the players, and this guy didn't let anything slip past him. They were also smart enough to knock out Mr. White before he could screw over any more of them, but now they have an important decision to make. They can push both of these players out the door for a huge advantage, but we can't be sure if it's against the rules or not. As this woman pointed out, they aren't choosing to leave, we are choosing for them, but that's all based on an interpretation of something that's hard to remember the exact wording of. It's a difficult decision, but the smartest thing to do here is to find a more cautious strategy to get it right. If it were me, I would have searched the other players to find out who has Mr. White's pill. If it's not with him, then someone must have stolen it. Now, it's not going to be hard to convince that person to reveal themselves, because my suggestion is to take the pill and throw it out the doorway. That way, we can untie him before he passes out, and he'll have to act quickly to make a choice between dying or quitting the competition. Since stepping outside would be his choice, it's the best way to guarantee his elimination, and the end result will benefit whoever the filthy is, so I'm sure they'll oblige. Now, the only reason the applicants are keeping him inside the room
That's
because
more
they actually
fair.
think that he solved the question, but I don't
I
believe
think
it.
probably
If he had solved it, then he would have answered it
go
already.
to
So
God.
there's only two possible scenarios here.
Next
By
time
answering the
the
question,
picture
either
for
one
her
of them wins,
tree.
or everyone
I
wins.
can
So
go
there's
watch
no
the
benefit for
video
Mr.
to
White to reveal
God.
this information. Since he has an
Next I
answer,
play
it's much more
cards or
likely that he
continent.
doesn't know what he's
By
talking about,
sitting my
and we can get
watching
rid
the
of him
graveyard,
once
I
and
can
for
draw
all.
2 cards.
Mr. Brown asks the dark-haired one what she knows about the exam, but she insists she
Next I
has no
play
more
my
information.
second final
Wanting
degree, draw 2
proof, the
cards.
man walks over to the psychologist's
Third
table
final
and
degree,
takes her
draw
exam
2
sheet.
cards.
Sitting back down, he threatens to torture her, and with 20 minutes left, he'll do anything to get his answer. Removing her glasses, he brings the
Trading.
exam sheet closer to her
The
eye
door
to
is the
slice
graveyard,
it,
draw
but
2
the woman
cards.
desperately swears she knows nothing about this exam, and Mr. Brown believes her. With that, he gets up and walks away, leaving her to recover from the interrogation. The blonde sets the woman free and helps her out of the chair, but when she turns to the other end of the room, she sees Mr. White is convulsing in his seat. Mr. Black confirms that the man is faking it, and the blonde asks the others to return his medicine, but no one admits to stealing it. With no choice, the applicants search each other for the pill, but find nothing. Suspicious, the dark-haired one walks over to Mr. Brown's desk and reaches underneath it to find a blue pill wrapped in a wad of gum. He was the one who stole the medicine this whole time and was willing to let the man die.
Crest 3D White Professional. Clinically proven whitening ingredients. 100% more stain removal. Crest.
The dark-haired woman walks back to Mr. White so she can give him his pill. But Mr. Brown steps in, insisting he can't allow that to happen, and slaps the medicine out of the woman's hand. The pill goes flying across the room and falls inside of a drainage ditch. The others gather around and try to reach inside, but none of their fingers can get a grip on the medication. Suddenly, Mr. White goes limp in his chair, and Mr. Black realizes he's dying. Time is running out, but the blonde gets a clever idea. Pulling out her hairpin, she slips it through the grate to grab the pill before the dark-haired woman stares into the security camera and begs the invigilator to help them. She's just broken the rules, and the guard grabs a hold of the woman before tossing her out of the room, making that 4 down with 4 more to go. Okay, that was a dumb mistake. This woman worked for the company, so if anybody had the best chance of winning, it would be her. She cared too much about the life of this man and just got herself eliminated. Now, as hilarious as it is, it's actually a shame that she's been disqualified, because even though she confessed to not knowing what the exam question is, she's still a useful source. Mr. Brown had the right idea to interrogate her, but he gave up too soon. The fact her own company put her in a room where all violence is allowed tells us that torture is clearly on the table. We're just playing by the unspoken rules of the game and using them to get the information we need to win. It's cruel, but this woman shouldn't be surprised at all. Now, I obviously would have asked her what the exam question is, just like Mr. Brown did, but it actually makes sense that she doesn't know. It would be foolish of the company to put that information into this test room, because it would ruin the results they're looking for. But she probably has other information that we can use to reverse engineer an answer. During this interrogation, the woman confessed to working in the company's HR department, which means she would probably know if this test has been taken before. I would ask her how many times the exam has been administered and who the previous winners are. If we can establish a pattern, it would give us the first concrete information to help us understand what we need to win this competition. Once she's told us everything she knows, I would simply threaten to continue torturing her unless she willingly quits and walks out of the room. The blonde woman manages to pull the medicine out of the drain and stuffs it down Mr. White's throat, forcing him to swallow. As soon as she does, he stops convulsing and finally wakes up, recovering quickly from his near-death experience. Looking around, he notices there are only 10 minutes left to complete the exam and stands up to continue playing. This man just won't give up, but as he starts limping towards his desk, Mr. Brown reminds him that he promised to reveal what the question was in exchange for the medicine. That's when the man shocks them with his theory and reveals that the test itself is the question, and they are the answers. Since the invigilator stated that they only need a single answer to pass, that means only one applicant can win. Seeing the guard's gun, he quickly runs to steal his weapon, but is stopped by Mr. Black and thrown to the ground. Taking the pistol from the guard, he points it straight at Mr. White, making everyone in the room terrified. The man makes it clear he only took the gun so that Mr. White wouldn't try to kill them, but with less than 6 minutes on the clock, Mr. White takes a step forward. Suddenly, the man pulls the trigger in self-defense, but to his surprise, the gun doesn't fire. The two men wrestle each other to the floor, sending the weapons sliding across the room, but Mr. White grabs a pencil and stabs him in the shoulder. The other man joins in the fight and tries to attack him, but he quickly takes the gun and bashes the man, knocking him to the ground. Standing up, Mr. White reloads the gun and discovers that it has a fingerprint lock that's stopping him from firing. But when he looks at the guard behind him, the man gets a clever idea. Stepping forward, he forces the gun into his hand and aims it at the two applicants lying on the ground. Mr. Brown surrenders, asking him what he wants them to do, and Mr. White demands they all walk out of the room one by one. With his life on the line, the man agrees to quit and leaves the exam room, making that 5 people down with only 3 to go. Okay, this is my kind of player. He went from tied up unconscious to having full control over the room, but they honestly should have been using this gun a long time ago. They've already proven that as long as we don't disobey the invigilator, we can do anything we want. And once everyone realized that any other action is allowed, this weapon should have been the first thing they went for. Earlier, this woman decided to reach into the guard's pocket for a lighter, but it was a massive oversight to not extend that logic and apply it to all of his other possessions as well. If she had just taken refuge just she could have been the last living person. Now, even with the weapon, Mr. White has one serious weakness here, because he's only a threat as long as he holds the gun against the guard's finger. As soon as his finger comes off of the trigger, the weapon is useless, and Mr. Black will regain the advantage, but we might be able to get him to quitting before it gets that far. This man is wearing a cross necklace, and is constantly talking about doing what's right. He's been defending people and thinking only hesitate every step of the way, and that's exactly what we want to hear, because it means we might be able to use it against him. I would try to convince him that with his morals, he wouldn't want to work for a company that's willing to put people in a room and watch us kill each other for a job. This doesn't show any respect for humanity, and it's not the kind of place that aligns with his religious views. Now, if that doesn't work, then we need to scare him out of the room. Since nobody knows how many bullets are in the gun, the smartest thing to do is fire a warning shot at the man's feet, so he knows we mean business, and it will encourage him to leave without getting any ideas. Morals or not, this man has shown that he can play dirty when he wants to, and it's better to force him out quickly before he finds a way to take control. Mr. Black tries to reason with the man to put the gun down, but he refuses to lose his competition and orders everyone to leave the room. That's when the blonde woman volunteers to quit and walks over to the door. But as she passes by Mr. Black, she warns him to get ready. The woman stops at the entrance, and Mr. White tells her to go through it like she promised, but this was a part of the plan. She yells lights out and hides behind the wall as Mr. Black flips a table. The gun goes off, and the other man runs for cover, but when the lights turn back on, Mr. Black reaches down to find a bullet wound in his chest. He's been shot, and the man collapses to the ground, closing his eyes as he passes. That's 6 people down, with only 2 more to go. The man turns to the doorway and is surprised to see the blonde one's foot just barely inside of the room. She hasn't been disqualified yet, but as he walks over to finish the job, he suddenly hears the clock beeping. Time has run out, which means neither of them have passed the test. The woman is relieved she survived to the end, but then she spies the Frenchman's glasses on the ground. The blonde remembers what he said before being eliminated and realizes it was the most important clue of them all. On the other side of the room, Mr. White yells at the people behind the glass that he deserves the job, but the guard suddenly grabs him by the shoulder. The man holds his wrist out, showing the applicant that the exam hasn't actually ended yet, and Mr. White inspects the timer, discovering that the countdown can be changed by holding down a button. The Frenchman must have moved the clock forward while no one was looking, and that means Mr. White has just disqualified himself by talking to the invigilator. The guard leads him out of the exam room, and they leave the woman alone, making that 7 down with only 1 more to go. Refusing to give up, the blonde picks up the glasses on the floor and examines her test paper. Using the lens like a magnifying glass, she finds a hidden message on the paper, but all it says is question 1. It doesn't make sense to her, until she remembers there's only one question they were asked before the exam started. Suddenly, the Frenchman enters the room and stares at the woman, making her realize what she must do. Walking up to him, the blonde remembers the invigilator asking if the applicants had any questions, and she tells the man that she doesn't. This was the answer, and the invigilator walks in to congratulate her for getting it right. She's the only person who passed the test, but the woman asks him why the company's CEO was pretending to be an applicant. The man explains that he wanted to make sure they got the right person for the job, but the blonde doesn't want to work for a company that kills its applicants. That's when the invigilator tells her that Mr. Black is still alive, and she doesn't believe him. Walking over to the body to see for herself, the blonde opens the man's shirt and discovers he only got a flesh wound. He wasn't shot with a bullet, but a special pill that will heal him of any injury. Moments later, the applicant opens his eyes and sits up, shocked that he's still alive. It makes the blonde reconsider her decision, and she reaches up to shake the CEO's hand, now realizing that passing this test makes her a total nerd. But what do you think? How would you beat the exam? Let me know with the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos like this. Until next time, have a damn good day.